Okay, let's see. We should be streaming soon, now, sometime.
Sometime.
Whenever. Hey, there we go. Starting now. Hey, hello, heathens. How y'all doing? Tonight we're going to be going over a currently live Dean Esmay stream where he's responding to everybody that you see here on the Hangout. We have Pelagia, Kyle and Steve from Non Sequitur. We've got Surus the Skeptic. We got Shannon Q, Jackson Wheat, Godless Cranium. KC obviously is
What's
right
up?
here with
Hi,
me.
y'all.
But we're gonna be going through it, and so we the reason why we were a little late was we had to figure out audio situation, but I think we got it figured out, and so everybody, just real quick, you guys want to give your thoughts, like for me personally, I'm counting about 1 or 2 questions before Dean's Tourette's sets in, so I'm kind of curious as to what you guys think.
I think you're being generous.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You're giving
I
a
predict
lot
0
more credit
questions
than I
get
think is
answered.
due.
You predict 0, Paul?
Zero questions will be actually answered. Now, first of all, we're starting off with McCrae, and he will not understand. He will not understand McCrae's question.
No one knows what the fuck he was talking about.
And it'll
Ray
just
doesn't understand McCrae's question.
yeah.
And I wrote it.
That's an agnostic for you.
Oh, yeah. Agnostic about question. I have a prediction. I predict, let's see if I'm right. We should all make some predictions. I think that all of us are evil. I think that we're all bigots. And I think that us asking these questions is just a sign of our ignorant attitudes. And I think that the questions will be represented as stupid, and then they'll be strawmanned, and then they'll be ridiculed, and they won't actually be addressed.
You forgot that we're bullies.
Oh, damn it. You're right.
And you forgot that he's going to say that this is proof that we're all part of a collaborative effort to form the Skeptic Mafia.
Right.
Well, everybody knows that we don't talk about the Skeptic Mafia.
You forgot your fucking Illuminati triangle.
If you're going to go around with the foregone conclusions, I'm going to predict that he's going to say that atheists are a tribe that is the most primitive and hateful and dishonest tribe there is. That's what I'm going to predict.
That's
you cheating bastard. Cheating bastard.
The word primitive really pisses me off, though. Like, all the rest of the stuff doesn't bother me as much as the word primitive. Like, what about us is primitive?
Well, we use the internet, and that's super primitive.
You see, we use a book that was written in the Iron Age, and that, oh shit, that's not us.
Right.
If for some reason they think that being an atheist or a non-believer they don't think it has any effort in it. They think that for some reason, oh, well, people don't really want to think about this, so therefore they're just going to call themselves atheists and non-believers and stuff like that. They don't realize that everybody in here has come to our positions because we have thought about things extensively.
Well,
They think
almost
it's like
everyone
your
has
mom.
come to a position.
Yeah, they think it's like
My
your mom
doesn't
or your
think about
dad when
you.
they.
Yeah, she doesn't think about you
when they-
anymore. I was going to say, think about my mom.
Oh,
Very
I just think
Great.
they think of it like your
Maybe-
mom did when you took up like some kind of music that your parents didn't like, and your parents are like, "Oh, it's just a phase." That's what they think of atheism.
Yeah, it's probably
Just an
good
edgy
enough.
phase.
Yeah. Or we're not thinking hard enough. We're not trying hard enough. Or we don't want to. We don't want to. Because we're part of the Skeptic Mafia. That's obviously why.
What are we going to do when they don't want to be atheist with us? That'll come up.
Yeah, that's right. We don't want to be. That's going to be a quote that happens 100%.
I bet
Absolutely.
that the Skeptic Mafia will definitely come into play tonight. I think that there's definitely going to be a lot of conspiracy theories. We're already labeled the Atheist Legion of Doom, so we've graduated from Mafia to a legion of supernatural villains.
Yes. It's spectacular. I like
The
it.
nerd in me is pumped about that, actually.
should-
I'm sorry.
We should have played.
That I would be nothing.
We should have played like atheist bingo and put up like all the memes that you could have, and
I
see like how
know.
many they hit. That's what we should have done. That would have been
We'll
awesome.
do that next time.
I'm buying
Yeah.
a fedora. I just have to have one.
Yeah,
I
if you
just
mention
need
a fedora, that's like B1, like fedora.
Yeah.
Okay, Cat Brony in the
That's such a
comments
good
was
idea.
asking who Lex Luthor is. Obviously, that's Steve McRae. He's the one with the least amount of hair.
With more hair.
He's also the one that must be funding the entire operation.
Lex Luthor would be Reese for sure.
Yeah, he wasn't in the 10 questions though.
Yeah.
He wasn't in the 10 questions. Maybe. Yeah.
the godless Iowan, he did a super chat for us. He says the response vid I'm working on hurts. Kyle knows.
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
He
is that-
he is deciding to answer the video as his former Pentecostal pastor self.
Oh,
Yes.
that's interesting.
That's pretty
Yes.
awesome.
This video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one
Well,
that
the questions.
the one that Dean's going to be looking at here in a second. So,
Yes.
why don't we go ahead and get into the video? We've kind of let everybody sort of get in here now. So we appreciate everybody that is watching tonight. I've seen Milwaukee Atheists and Edgy Emo. Is it Edgy Emo Atheist?
Edgy Emo Atheist. She just put out her first video. Go check it out on her channel. She's great.
Yeah, Beej Price is here, who was in the original, who was in the live stream. I don't know if they still are now, but we really appreciate everybody watching. Godless Iowan, especially.
Yeah. Share. Everybody share this out.
Yeah,
Let's get everybody in here.
because
have a good time.
I can guarantee you the Tourette's is going to be strong. Normally through his streams, he only gets about 5 or 6 minutes in, maybe, but the entire time, like people, like somebody will be asking a question or saying something, he'll just yell out, "Liar!"
I think
That's
I'm your
epic.
favorite.
No, they're not. Oh, yeah, sure.
But I'm everybody's favorite.
You're my favorite.
All right, so let's go ahead and get on into it. I'm gonna play it. Now, of course, the audience is gonna hear really good audio, while the people here on the stream are not gonna hear such good audio, but they will be
As it
able to
should
hear
be.
it along with us. So, if anybody wants to say anything, you just got to let me know, and I can pause it, and we'll go ahead and start playing it. Okay?
Before we do that, can I read the message that he sent to me about our video, like our whole collab
yes,
video?
definitely.
Sure,
And we should probably tell people what happened too, in case they didn't see the video. We did a video called 10 Questions Christians Can't Answer, just in case anybody didn't see it. If you're crazy and you didn't go to the Non Sequitur channel and watch that video, that's what this is in response to. But sorry, go
But
ahead.
this is what he said back. He said, the atheists once again show that it does not have honest debates. These are all questions educated Christians could answer easily. In fact, they're questions that non-Christians can answer just fine. These are also questions that many of these people already know the answers to and won't admit or have a conversation about. But we'll go ahead and answer these anyway. We'll easily answer them. And we'll do this tonight on Red Pill Religion. Then we'll ask why they don't have an honest discussion unspun.
Oh,
What? Oh, did you mute me?
Motherfucker.
Motherfucker?
It's us, by the way. Not
I think,
just you.
Oh. Okay,
Casey,
so I
you're-
said,
Are you watching Shannon's channel at all?
Damn.
Y'all be glad you didn't hear it. It was laced with profanities, and we don't
Oh, we
fucking
all-
like that on this channel.
we heard it.
We heard
I
it.
should have
Yeah, we are.
bought my camera.
Okay, so we
Besides-
had another super chat. Chrismer, he says, I had to go to Twitter to see you online. YouTube sucks. Yes, the notification system quite sucks.
Yeah, so go share it out on Twitter real quick. We're getting ready to start.
Right. All right, so let's go ahead and start this. I'm going to mute and then play, and y'all just let me know when you want me to stop.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
Reese Geis, for the super chat.
You need your financial as well as your spiritual support. Find us also on gab.ai at Red Pill Religion, on Maker Support at Red Pill Religion. And like I said, go to redpillreligion.com, where we have regularly updated content every day, at least one new video, sometimes articles, submissions from others, videos from other channels. It's a good site, and we could use your donations these days. We do want to continue expanding operations. We're growing. We're just not growing as fast as we could be if we could put more time into it. So anyway, please give us a like. Please give us a subscribe. Please tell your
That
friends
time
or
is the big
enemies.
problem.
Yes, by the way, I am striving at the urging of teammates to try to be nicer. Now, it's pretty funny because during the first 2 years when I started being a strong critic of the atheist movement, the atheist ideology, the atheist cult network, and bad behavior of the atheists
trying to
in
be
general in
nice.
culture as a
Nice, but
former.
we're listening to the cult.
I like Cult Network. The
I don't
atheist
like
cult.
I spend so
ACN,
much
the
money
Atheist
on
Cult
the.
Network.
I spend so much money if I'm watching them after midnight. I just call in and buy their shit.
No, but if you say atheist cult network without screaming, that means that you're being nice.
ATN.
Oh my god, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Atheist Cult Network.
I might need to get muted because I'm probably gonna laugh a lot. Okay, go ahead.
It's the wine.
So we have a couple super chats. Hold on.
Yeah, we got a couple super chats here. Dustin Furnace says this should help, and it's Satan's number and no donation. Milwaukee Atheist says Dean reads title of video. Also Dean, liars.
Earbud warning. God damn it.
We don't do that here.
Oh,
You're on a
geez.
GE stream. You don't need an earbud warning because it's
Say,
like,
Godless Engineer is the earbud warning. This is culture.
he
I
shows
should know
up,
better.
you know.
Yeah.
We're definitely gonna make a video. You're watching the ACN network. Dun dun dun.
Oh, God. All right, so we've addressed nothing and we're all in a cult. Let's go.
All right.
Let's do
It's
it.
only 30 seconds
I'll
in.
be more calm.
All right.
Or atheist, who still had atheist friends, the attacks and smearing that I got from this community and the psychological, it went well beyond words on the internet, and the number of people I uncovered who had been severely abused, smeared, slandered, harassed, careers ruined, families interfered with, families terrorized, all coming from ideological atheists with a hate boner for religious people.
I drink my haterade and it gives me a giant hate boner.
Get over my hate boner.
We are
If
not
you
getting
can't get a
gluten-free.
hate
We are
boner,
not getting
they
gluten-free.
probably have pills for it.
They call them red pills.
That is correct.
Oh,
my
man.
Well, Reese says seriously janky audio. GE. Is my audio messed up?
Sounds good in here.
Sound good
God.
to
Yeah,
me.
we can actually hear it.
Yeah, we can actually hear it quite well.
If
That's
it's-
just Dean. That's the way Dean is.
yeah, no, I think that's just Dean. Like it's not like this is coming directly from the live stream, so it's not me, it's Dean.
Oh gosh.
We should
It says
put that on a shirt.
Audio's fine. Audio's fine. Audio's fine. Maybe hit refresh on whatever you're using to view, because there's other people in the stream saying this sounds good.
We should get shirts made. We should get shirts made that say like, what are we called now? Atheist
Mafia Legion of Doom.
Atheist Legion of Doom. Mafia? We're adding Mafia?
Oh,
Well,
No,
we-
it's
I mean,
Skeptic
we're-
Mafia,
I thought-
Legion.
yeah,
of
and
Doom.
then on
Skeptic
the back
Mafia.
it should just say
Oh.
hate boner.
It also has to
I
be a
like it.
subdivision of the Atheist Cult Network.
Yeah.
We might
Brought
need
to
to
you by-
have
That
that,
on the
have that
back.
across our pants or something.
That's
We may
good.
need to
Yeah,
have a
or
shirt
like or
that- pants.
the Atheist Legion thing on the back, and then on the front it says hate boner and points down.
We need to make shirts of our Avenger pictures, like just a
Yes.
shirt with all of us on there and the Atheist Cult Network on the bottom.
Oh, that would be such a good idea. Or the Atheist
that'd be
Legion of
cool.
Doom. I like the Atheist.
I do too.
That'd be cool.
We have a super chat real quick from Puffalopagus. This is hard. Hi, right off the starting blocks, he's selling his product. Steve told ya.
Or you do
Yep.
Dean does.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and continue it.
Yeah, let's do it.
This has been a real and ongoing phenomenon that nobody in the atheist community will take seriously, and that's because some of them are guilty. That's because others of them don't want their heroes to come down, and some of them are just naive. Although, you know, the more time goes on, the more it becomes apparent that yes, quite a few famous atheists were involved in really nasty activity and really nasty behavior. I have begun sensing that there's been a tide shift, and that my aggressive, satirical, Jerry Springer type posture, which is what it's always been, a Jerry Springer type act to get attention, although underlying it has been some real justified and completely justified anger. Sustained anger at something that is, in fact, should get people angry. The bad behavior by atheists on the internet, especially on places like YouTube, is epic, and many, many, many witnesses there are to it, and much documentation is available. And so I have trouble even respecting people who are making money off of atheism, who will not talk about this history of abuse, this history of horrible activity, this problem of demonstrably false history passed around, demonstrably false science passed around, and harassment of religious people that has been quite real over the last decade, ever since the new atheist cult explosion on the internet. I struck an extremely aggressive tone, mirroring the tone of people like Stephen Fry and Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and Jerry Coyne and actually freaking who's that? Dark Matter, TJ. Atheism is unstoppable. Sargon. People on the right who are atheists. There comes a point.
And he's out.
No, yeah. No, what I wanted to point out here was this is a class called 2 fallacy. Basically, at least I perceive these people to be doing something shitty, and therefore it's fine for me to do something shitty too.
Right.
Like, not that Hitchens or Dawkins or whatever, employ shitty tactics all the time. Like, I think sometimes, they say things just to be inflammatory, but Dean goes off the fucking deep end, and like, at least there are reasons behind like shit Dawkins says and whatnot, but like, there's no reason other than just blind hatred for
And
Dean.
also, if you're looking at a group of people, he always lists off the same 5 or 6 people. And then he says, well, you have to answer for these 5 people and everything that they did, just because you also don't believe that there is a God. That's just like saying, well, I like ice cream and, Hitler liked ice cream. So I have to answer for Hitler. The only real unifying force about atheists is the fact that we don't believe in God. All of this rhetoric, his type of rhetoric, you know what? We should probably thank him for it, because we're forming a community so that we can normalize atheism because of this type of foolishness and bonding together. So you know what? Thank you for that, because I found all of these amazing people I'm in a stream with. And I wouldn't have felt compelled to speak out if it wasn't for people like you that say these sort of vitriolic, ridiculous, asinine things.
The worst thing, though, is that he not even, all of what Shannon just said is true, but at the same time, he always brings up people that happened 5-10 years ago when we weren't even around. I didn't have a channel. Even if I wanted, even if I wanted to respond to it, what am I going to do? Okay, TJ, 10 years ago you said this shitty thing, so therefore I'm calling you out, man.
Yeah, go get him. I know, and that's the preface to a video that's done by none of the people that he just referenced. Yeah. This is him opening up to respond to us, to all of the people that are in the stream, and several more who are also not the people that he referenced.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of the people that he references don't really talk about atheism anymore. I mean, Dark Matter does, but
he does.
TJ doesn't really, right? So most of the people he's talking about don't make videos on atheism anymore. They make videos on social justice and politics and stuff.
2012 or something still, or I don't know. They realize that there's a whole new crop of people out there in 2018, and they keep going back to the old school type things. And I don't know why. Like you said, a lot of them aren't even that active any longer.
And to be
I
fair,
think Paul are going to win. He's not going to get to one question that we asked.
Yeah, I have tried to. I've tried to investigate these claims. I've tried to be honest with you about this. I've looked for this documentation that you say is so plentiful, Dean. Please make a video outlining your case for all of these things, and many of us will be happy once we've seen it to talk about it. But we cannot find what in the hell you're talking about, man. So do a video. Show us this evidence.
Yeah.
But Paul, he's
Exactly.
got so many friends and people who can show you that.
Bring them on. Bring
got
them
20
fucking
people
on.
watching.
But we want timestamps, links.
That's right.
All
No,
that.
he's got so many
Screencast.
friends that know.
Seriously, he's got 20 people watching his feed right now. So
Okay, so we got a couple of super chats here. Atheist Brony, he says, if this is the Atheist Legion of Doom, who's Hawk, who's Animal, and who's Paul? I'd like to think I'm Hawk because I'm pretty good with the bow and arrow on Far Cry.
He is. He is.
So Animal, I don't know. I guess maybe Paul, and then Paul Ellering. I'm not exactly sure who Paul Ellering is.
You know,
From the
Godless
actual Legion
Island-
of Doom. Go ahead.
They're a wrestling group, aren't they?
Sorry, I just have to say that Godless Iowan might say that I'm Animal. He did an impression of me earlier on a Not Ja Witness stream.
Oh God.
Where,
No.
where he just
love
kept
Not Ja
yelling,
Witness.
"Shut the fuck up," shrilly. So that was,
You know what? That was probably dead on.
I specifically said when that happened, I was like, I'm gonna have to be on a stream with Casey later, Iowa, and please don't make this weird.
Shut the fuck up.
So Drew's book reviews. This is Andrew. I had him on an interview recently. He says, I know I'm a bit behind the stream, but Atheist Cult Network, Rothful, last I checked, religion was the cult, lol. And I agree that it very much is.
You're ruining our image as cult leaders, though.
See,
You're dismantling our power
Oh,
structure.
there was one before that too.
Yeah. Chrismer says, F. Carl Benjamin, seriously, he needs the V bad. Duke Bonanza, Dean, I wasn't aware I needed evidence. Esmay. Milwaukee Atheist, shut up and take my money.
Dustin earlier, he said, rambling to hope we forget the questions exist.
Yeah.
Oh,
That might
Yeah,
happen.
we haven't hit even question 1 yet.
No, we
Yeah, that
haven't.
might happen.
We have to get through his preamble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Do it.
and this is
Preamble
actually a little
Esmay
like
is-
the movie Inception. The original video took so long, and then Dean's thing is the second level of dreams, and now we're the third level of dream here. So we're never getting to it.
So now this is going to take 30
Did you already
hours.
read
Yes,
Dustin's?
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. All right. So let's let's go ahead and see if we can get to an actual question.
That would be
Hopefully we
nice.
can.
That would be nice.
Where the entire atheist community, all of you who call yourself skeptics, rationalists, and claim you want a better world, are the biggest hypocrites in the world, because you can't take somebody being nasty to you in the exact way most of you, and I do mean most of you who are making your living at this, or
Rejection?
hoping to make your living at this.
Seriously, right?
We're
Also, I
all
want
just
my
sitting.
I'll
money.
have a lot more
We're all
respect
just
for
sitting here not
everybody
taking
there.
I'm
Yes,
definitely not making any
exactly.
money. I can't even be monetized on my channel, for God's sakes.
I really wish you would name the people though that he's talking about, right? Like
I
a lot
don't know,
of
it's
people
so
says like
people.
it's just like, oh, it's just this all of you, like most of you anyway, are this kind of person, but he doesn't name who he deems to be good and who he deems to be bad. It's
Well, he
just-
also does this thing where he says there's plenty of documentation, lots of documentation, so much. It's like, well, one, many is not quantifiable. By many, your definition of many could be what? 3 unsighted sources.
Yeah. We talked to some guy once.
Yeah, I talked to some guy once and he said he didn't like Godless Cranium.
That was
Nobody
me.
did.
To be fair, that was me.
Yeah, there's like 7 of us in here for that.
there's many people that say that. So
There's nobody in here that's a special snowflake by any stretch of the imagination, and he's just
No.
ubiquitously saying, "You guys can't take criticism." Okay, well, let's see what you got. We're sitting here
had
waiting
it-
for your reply.
Yeah.
yeah, I had a dude say he was gonna punch me in the face. I put him in my video.
Are you talking about the guy who had the hairbrush?
Yes.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah,
I remember right afterwards, and it was like, hey guys, Godless Cranium has no friends. A dude with a hairbrush told me so.
So Mr. Atheist says, I have nothing clever to say, but you guys are great. So
I
thank
love
you,
him.
Mr.
He's got a
Atheist.
team.
That was actually clever. That was very clever.
I'm
Was.
recording with him next week. He's pretty cool. He's got a cool channel.
All right. So let's go ahead and see if we can actually get to a question.
Any question would be good.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yep.
when somebody stands up and says, you know what, if a father teaches his kid that God is real because that's what he believes too, it's not on you to call that child abuse. And I don't really trust any of the people that are in this video at this point, because none of them will do the right thing and call the one gentleman there out for how utterly unacceptable it is to level such hideous allegations, knowing that they are reputation destroying, knowing that they might result in my child or myself being hurt, knowing that those things could happen. Just blatantly throw that crap out there, an allegation that my child is being abused in some fashion.
What's he talking about?
Seriously, I'm looking into all of it.
What's that?
He's talking about when Godless Engineer said something about child abuse on your show.
Oh, is that what
okay. So here's what he said.
I didn't even
He
recognize what
said
was
that the
referring
only
to.
person that's a danger to his child is him. He didn't say he abuses his child, but the type of indoctrination that he is, I mean, you can see in his video, he's teaching his child hate, distrust, and bigotry of people based on their religious or non-religious belief. And, you know, that you're teaching your child bigotry. That's not a good thing.
But
I have a theory.
It's all together, right?
If a Godless Engineer was not in this video that we did, he would not be having this hangout right now. I think it's just because Godless Engineer was part of those questions. That's where he's going to focus his
probably.
But see, he thinks that because people can say things like, "Hey, if you teach your kid about racism and you're advocating racism, you're advocating bigotry," I think those are forms of child abuse. He's equivocating that into, if you teach your kid there's a God, that's child abuse. I would never advocate for that position. I don't think teaching
that's
children
what
God
he's
is child abuse. But he thinks it's all one big thing, right? He can't separate them because he just wants to have this persecution type narrative.
Well, he was teaching his kid to distrust all atheists simply because we don't believe in God. And that's teaching your child bigotry. And that's not healthy for certain.
So Breadmaster PBJ says, get Hitchens back to show Dean what true abuse is. So Cat Brony also asked about whether or not I was going to call him out for lying right here and everything that he's saying. Pretty much how he starts out his stream is that he lies about the atheist community in general, and he just basically puts his hate on display. And I don't know if that's like soothing for him and he just gets that out there and then he can actually go onto the video or what, but it's very odd how he has to start out by continuing his hateful rhetoric and lies against our community.
Right.
And Godless, remember this is the same guy that accused me of harassing his kids before I even knew that he had kids. So I'm not sure how that fucking works.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know.
how much he lies. He actually accused me of harassing his kids when he knew I had no idea he even had kids. So how would
anybody was capable of harassing?
I still don't know what his kids are. I don't even know. He doesn't care. He just throws out these accusations. The fact of they're true or false makes no difference to him. They really don't.
Well, and I'm a firm believer that you don't go after somebody's kids, and
absolutely.
But he put his kid out there. He's the one who put his child out there on video, teaching him these things. And so for him to get any kind of pushback on that is pretty much on him. Like, he did this.
Yeah, but you're not criticizing the kid. You're not attacking the kid. You're attacking him for instilling these shit-ass
Well, it's not the kid's fault. It's not the kid's fault that the father is teaching him hatred.
But he doesn't see it as wrong. Like, in the video, he said, "I know, son, it's bad. It's too bad. It's too bad that we can't trust them, but we can't. We just can't trust them." So I think he sees his approach as being one that's, soft and kind and rational, because he in his mind feels like it's rational not to trust us.
Yeah.
Because we've betrayed him, because he was an atheist. He'll speak frequently about the fact that he was an atheist, because we've betrayed him and we hurt him and he felt that hurt and that was real and that's a thing that happened. Pardon me. So he feels like it's rational, and in his mind, he's protecting his son from feeling that thing that he felt.
And maybe that's what he thinks he's doing, but that's not.
It is. But
that's
it's not
what he's
a
doing.
good thing to do, because ultimately you're teaching a child that a group of people who really the only thing that they have in common and the only thing that unifies them is the fact that they just don't believe this one thing.
Right.
And
It
memes.
means
Memes.
right. It means that they're untrustworthy and mean, and they're bad people, and instilling that in a child. I mean,
Isn't that just
my
instilling
child.
bigotry?
It's not my child, but I wouldn't do that with my child. I teach him to judge people based on their individual merits.
I say that
Right.
sounds like he's just teaching his children bigotry, and I'd say that that's pretty harmful. I don't know if I necessarily say it's abuse, but I would say it's definitely harmful.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I think there's going to be a higher threshold for, I would say, something's abuse, but
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't agree with that kind of behavior. I wouldn't agree with it if an atheist did it either. Like if an atheist was saying you're not allowed to read the Bible, all Christians or all Muslims are bad people, I wouldn't agree with that either. I would think that's harmful as well.
Right.
Yeah, if you said, no Christians are trustworthy, don't trust, it's bad. I know it's too bad. It's too bad that they're not trustworthy, but don't trust Christians.
Right.
Why?
I mean,
Because they lie.
I also
if
don't
we
know-
said that, like, he'd be really upset about that.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
he wouldn't hesitate to tell us that we were abusing our children.
It shouldn't even be on the table though, because Godless Engineer never said the word abuse.
He
Just said
didn't.
dangerous.
He hears what he wants to hear, though. That's the whole
Right.
thing, Dean.
Okay, so Not Joe Witness said that it's all my fault. I triggered the snowflake. And everybody's concerned about Paul's mic. Paul is AFK,
He's
for the
AFK.
moment.
Yeah.
Just so that everybody knows, I am not censoring Paul in the chat. That is not something I would ever do.
Nobody wants to
You
hear from
probably
Paul.
should,
That
though,
guy.
He's a nightmare.
All he talks about is dinosaurs and shit anyway. Screw him.
So, engineer, are you saying that you're better than the Canadian Homeschooling Association?
Probably. I don't know.
Oh,
Puffle-
sir.
Ouch.
Don't.
That was-
Puffaluffagus
you know what?
360.
That was really good, actually.
Oh, fuck.
Puffaluffagus 360 said, "Bullshit. Steve is the OG looper."
All right.
that
I
even
love that
mean?
we haven't even got to one question
Time
yet.
traveler.
I know.
Oh, I
we
also-
need to try.
I also wanted to say just really quick before we go back into it. I wonder if what Dean was saying, like when he told that story, if he was just like embellishing like he does in other stories. Like I wonder, like I can't say that we don't have eyes in his house, right? So we can only know what he told us. And
no, he recorded it.
No, he recorded it.
No,
he
no,
recorded
it.
him.
Oh, did he?
It's a
Son,
video of
yeah.
him and his child.
And he posted it on the
Oh.
internet
Yes,
as an example
he
of how to
recorded
teach
it
it.
and put it on YouTube.
And then
Yeah.
I have a video.
I've never seen it.
Well,
Yeah.
I have a video up where I'm exposing it, and I guess in the title I say abusive Christianity is what I say. And so, because I mean, I do feel like that type of thinking, that type of Christianity where you're just hating people regardless of anything, I do feel is a bit emotionally abusive. And because I mean, I suffered at the hands of toxic emotional abuse when I was growing up. And so I mean, I recognize, the signs and everything. Mr. Atheist says, still nothing clever to say, but how many of these to buy all your friendships? Play Far Cry with me.
I will play Far Cry with you. I have Xbox though, so if you have PlayStation, I won't play with you.
Chrismer says your newest Chrismer says your newest $10 patron. Woohoo! Craig Norton, thank you for the super chat. Godless Island, Paul should stop swearing so much, then he can talk. I agree, Paul.
Fun story in real life.
Fucking
Paul,
fuckers.
Paul swears a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe more than me.
Okay, yes, we need to get to
Yes,
the video.
we need to try.
Yeah,
We
let's
need
do
to
it.
try.
Let's do it. Let's go.
That's still a thing.
Available remedies to see to it that such besmirching of myself, my child, my ex, my ex's husband, my current wife, my older son, my entire family. How dare you all be so morally bereft,
Man.
you would not condemn that kind of behavior, especially coming from a man who we nailed, and we were just making fun of him. But we nailed him on his Facebook group for posting pornographic pictures from supposedly a Swedish site, and people actually advocating showing what amounts to real porn, with cum shots and everything.
I'm
and
mad that I didn't
advocating
get that
showing
link.
that to
Why
children
don't you
as
tell
sex
us these things?
education.
I want to know where
And
the Swedish porn is.
What is he
You naughty
talking
boy.
about?
Fuck.
Whose group has Swedish porn?
What is? First of all, what the fuck does that have to do with our video that he's responding to? I thought if he's responding to our video,
I
he's
don't
going
know
to talk
what this
about
has to do with
porn.
any of us. Does anybody have Swedish porn?
I have plenty of it.
Share it.
Let me check my podcast.
I
You want to
Share that shit. That's the first rule of Atheist Club. You fucking share your Swedish porn.
I have plenty of it. But I didn't
that
post
was
it.
back in like the 80s on beta. You had Swedish porn.
What's happening? Oh my god.
He knows.
Life
See,
choices I need to
laugh. He
reassess.
remembers
God
that
damn
shit.
it.
Okay,
Swedish
so
erotica.
we did get a super chat, and it's pretty substantial. And Zero says super chat is stupid. What the fuck is wrong with you fools? Also, is Steve admitting that he's an atheist now, or does he still claim he's right about what atheism means? Now, okay, listen, I don't agree with forcing any label on any particular person.
Oh God.
Just to point that out, I'm fine
Not
with
today.
Steve, holding on to his agnostic label. I'm not here to judge, Steve on how he wants to label himself or anything like that. And I don't think anybody else should either. However Steve wants to label himself, that's fine.
With it. Yeah.
For the record, my last video was specifically on labels. So, if you want to learn about labels, I have a channel now. Go to Shannon Q's channel and learn about not to impose labels.
Godless Iowan wants to know how Dean has his internet history. Apparently, Godless Iowan's into Swedish porn.
Hey man,
But the one thing we all have in common, though, all of us are non-believers. None of us have a God belief. The labeling is irrelevant, and so there's reasons why people have labels. But one thing we all have in common is that we don't have a God belief, and I think that's what needs to be focused on. I think that everybody in here understands that. So the outside that haven't, they're more focused on the label. The label is just a label, like Shannon says. There's reasons why people take the specific labels. I don't for very, very good reasons, but they're my own reasons. However, I'm fully fine with saying I do not have a God belief. I've never said that I did otherwise, right? I do not have a God belief. So,
right. Yeah. And I totally agree with you, Steve, and you're fine.
I know.
Don't tell Steve he's fine.
Honey, I know I am.
Oh God.
Milwaukee Atheist says, I would pay good money to watch Dean describe porn.
I would run and hide and I would jam like 18 earplugs in each ear to not hear that.
By the way, thank you, Zero, for the super chat on that. I know Zero's just fucking with me. I
want to find out who he's talking about, though. Like, who is this person that?
Yeah,
posted...
in their group that has Swedish porn. I mean, we have a group, but like we've never had Swedish porn or any porn in our group. So
maybe you
should. Yeah, hold on.
I'm in all the groups, and I haven't seen any of the porn. If there's a porn group that I don't know about, I am going to go up one side of you assholes and down the other.
That fucking porn.
Why am I on the
I think he's talking about our group because there was that one video, but it wasn't a porn video. Like, that's not what it even was. Somebody took screen grabs of it. You remember what it was? It was a satire thing. It was some sort of satire thing. It wasn't even porn, but somebody was in our group and took screenshots of certain parts that made it look like we had porn in the group, and we don't.
What group is it?
I don't know. It was so long ago.
Well, no, yeah, okay. So basically, Dean, he had somebody infiltrate my Godless Engineering group on Facebook, and apparently they had shared a video in there that was discussing sexual education, right?
So they put the porn in there?
Well, I don't know. No, it wasn't porn. It was like some sort of satire video about sex education.
It was another member, right? And so basically Dean on a hangout and everything, on a hangout and everything, he like went through our admin list, read off all of our names, and was like, "I hope you guys, agree with this particular bit of porn being posted in here." Acting like we're ashamed of porn, motherfucker.
Swedish
you don't know
gate.
my search history.
Swedish gate.
Yeah,
Swedish
we have another super chat. Duke Bonanza, do y'all have a moment to talk about the risen macho man Randy Savage?
Oh, Paul really is muted, by the way. Now he's trying to talk. I just got a text message.
What?
Paul really is muted. He can't unmute.
He has to unmute himself.
GE, why are you censoring Paul? I thought you were better than them.
I'm legitimately, I can't, I don't have control of that. I don't think.
No one has control, Paul.
Paul, you could try to leave and come back, Paul. That's a possibility.
Yeah, because it says it doesn't, when he clicks on you, you're not muted, Paul, but it shows the mute in the corner, so I don't know what's wrong with it. We have another one, Jeremy H. Beer money to numb the stupid. Thanks, Jeremy. I don't drink, so I have to do this sober all the time.
Before,
No wonder you're so angry all the time.
I know,
before
right?
this
That's why
actually,
I'm so
before this
bitchy.
actually started,
Godless
when it was
bitch.
just- when it was just me and Shannon, I actually like showed the alcohol section of my store. Like, do you need all this tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So let's get back to the video.
Can I finish reading the super chats before?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, so we've got Ragnarok 2KX. Now I kind of want the 50 Shades audiobook narrated by this guy. No, you don't.
Not super chat yet.
I'm offended and aroused at the
Hands
same time. I'm offended and aroused at the same time.
Fenrir, the God Eater. I just want to make fun of the way the Canucks say about a boot.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Breadmaster PBJ, Swedish porn is someone putting an IKEA bed set together.
I take it back. That one's good.
Not
That was
Witness,
brilliant.
we professionals. It's true. We're goddamn professionals. That's all I got. So let's get back to the video.
Yes,
All right,
let's
let's do
get
it.
back to it.
That was funny.
And making some kind of comparison to abstinence education, like this would be better, would be much more practical and useful. I'm sorry, at some level, you people also are the biggest hypocrites in the world. You won't even say that that's tacky or out of line, but you will suggest that somehow my telling my son the truth which is that it is always a lie to say there's no evidence for God, because it is, and atheists bully people when they say that, and I don't care if any of you like hearing that either. Yes, there is evidence. It's just evidence you don't find convincing. Other people do. I have to tell my child that now, because atheist ideologues will just run around blithely saying there's no evidence to a child, indoctrinating him with there's no evidence belief, along with maybe indoctrinating him with other lies about how our religion is anti-science and how God's just an imaginary thunder god. I, as a man, as a father, have to worry about my kid being abused with such misinformation.
Oh, yeah, because we pull kids over on the side of the goddamn road. We just go to playgrounds and hand out pamphlets about how God doesn't exist and that there's no evidence. Are you out of your mind?
Shannon, I love you.
Are you out of your mind? If you don't want the kid to be exposed to atheists, monitor his YouTube. I'll tell you that right now, because nobody's walking up to your whatever-year-old and saying, hey, little Jimmy, did you hear that there's no God and there's no evidence and your father's lying to you? Oh, nope, not happening. Stop pushing that narrative.
Can everybody
know about it? And stop telling people that atheists abuse children and are trying to indoctrinate children. Because you know what? We don't have a church to take our goddamn kids to. We're not.
Can everybody
shut your mouth? Oh.
Can everybody just imagine Shannon leaning around the corner being, hey kid, you want to buy some atheism?
Nobody's doing that.
Like Pennywise down in the sewer. bobbing her head up.
I would like him to explain what that looks like, because he says that all the time, and I have a kid. And you know what? If my kid talks to me about God sometimes, and I talk to him about it, and I say, you know what? You're allowed to believe whatever you want, buddy. Like, here's what mommy thinks. What do you think? And I don't say, well, that's wrong to think. I let him make his own decisions. I don't talk to his friends about it. I certainly don't go to the school grant and hand out goddamn pamphlets about it. I don't talk to other people's kids about it because that's pushing my boundaries. I talk to grown-ups about it because I'm a grown-up and I'm allowed to have big people conversations.
Unlike Dean.
Stop bringing children into it. We're not, you are, stop.
So I have to repaint my "There's No God" van.
Not only that, you have to get rid of all of your atheist candy too.
Oh man.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Paul, everybody wants to know what you think about the bullshit so far. So could you please appease people
in the chat?
Me? Oh, I've been dealing with a barky dog, so I've missed some of it. But it seems like I came back and we watched 0 minutes of Dean's video. So
No, we watched like 10 minutes, but it's mostly just him talking about how the
we have
atheist
not
community
watched
sucks.
that much.
Zero
We haven't
questions.
even gotten to the video.
I think we need to just skip ahead to the video to when the video starts from here. But we have a few more super chats.
Well,
But
yeah,
there's
we
so
got
much
Jeremy
good
H.
content.
Money for KC to deal with her stupid in the special way.
Thank you, Jeremy. I have Diet Coke.
Bullionator says, just today I was counting churches while driving across St. Petersburg. No less than 50 when I stopped counting. Yeah, I mean, that's true. And then Jeremy says, Shannon Q is my spirit animal.
Right.
I love you, Jeremy. Go Shannon Q.
All right.
I have 2 videos. They're great.
So do we all agree to skip to the actual video part and get past all of this?
There's so much good content in here right here. I mean, that he's saying, but I unfortunately may not ever get to the questions because all the dumb fuckery before it. So
I will be honest. I'll be here for a good hour and a half.
When does he start answering the first question? At what point?
Wait, we found Steve's question.
Oh, yay! Oh, Steve, let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah, apparently
Go
he
for it.
talked for about 10 more fucking minutes.
Yeah, we don't need that shit in our
That's
life.
enough. No,
Yeah.
that would be 3 hours of our time.
Yeah,
Just me
that'd be-
getting
We
angry.
already got the Shannon meltdown. That's good enough.
You know, surprisingly enough, Dean wasn't the first person to melt down tonight.
Don't talk about kids. I'm telling you.
All right.
Shannon Colby.
Let's see. We've got Drew's book review says child abuse is religious teaching driving kids to suicidal depression over natural behaviors. This Dean guy needs to be told the truth. Hurts. Event Horizon, thank you for the super chat. Roadrunner, you people pretty offended the black viewer.
The black viewer, like there's just one. Thank you for being our token black viewer.
Thank you.
We
Rosie.
love you.
You cannot have a deep stream without at least one token black guy. That's
All right.
Thank you.
So we've skipped forward to the actual video part.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go ahead and play it. Okay, guys.
All right.
Let's do it.
Okay, and but also be patient, and I may wait. I may let it roll a few seconds after you say stop. So let's go.
Hey,
No?
hey, could you screen share it?
Oh, you don't need to see it, do you? No, I'm just.
Oh,
kidding.
okay.
Hang on. All right, there. That better? All right, here we go.
I guess he just doesn't want to see
All right,
Steve.
here we go.
Creators here on
Fair.
YouTube.
I don't blame him, man.
For an explanation for
Fuck
human
you.
existence. And by what mechanisms, meaning by what activities and interactions that are organized in such a way that produced humans, did God use? And by what means could we discover those mechanisms?
Among even the
Hey
most,
there. Okay, stop.
there are always people who interpret
Yes,
some
sir.
part of the Bible.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, the first question was basically about the mechanisms with which God created man. Now, according to sacred scripture, God ultimately created everything from nothing, as per his omnipotence, because his ability to actualize any potential event, so long as it is logically possible, is what
Steve
we
is
mean
like,
when-
I'm just watching Steve punch himself in the throat.
I'm losing the will to live.
you had one of those?
Oh, damn it. As soon as I hear the word actualized, I'm like, oh no.
Oh God. Oh God. Please continue. I gotta hear this. This is
As per his omnipotence.
Oh, you're sexy when you say as per omnipotence, Paul. Just saying.
oh God, there's so many
Boner.
things wrong with the answer.
Get a room, you fuckers.
You know what? We're in a room. We're in this Google room. This is our room. You get the fuck
We've
out.
got hate boners.
We all already have hate boners.
Yeah. No, I'm losing my erection.
We all have hate. we all have hate boners, and there's only 2 women here. So
Can you imagine Godless creating nothing but his
already
mask?
tired.
With a big old hate boner?
I got to hear the rest of this. Who's answering this question?
You,
Video,
Steve.
dude.
Oh,
No, the video.
With a screen that's reading a national review. I don't know.
Oh,
Was this
Ghost of
Ghost
Buckley,
of
okay.
Ghost of
something.
Buckley.
Who's actually a nice guy. But
Ghost, he is. Be nice to him.
Ghost of Buckley's a nice guy, but I think he's way off the mark on this one. But go ahead.
When we say omnipotence, if you accept the scientific theories on evolution, there is room to believe that God created the human body through the process of evolution. However, many Christian theists will say that the immortal soul was not that man possesses does not come from the physical process of evolution. Only the body does. Anyone else want to take up on that?
Yes, I want to just say that, I just have a couple points here. Is like, he's making God more of a scientific claim when, as Keith Ward points out, that God is basically a metaphorical claim. It's a factual one, of course, but it's not
metaphysical.
It can't be both.
I believe.
It can't be both.
Yeah, I think.
What the
Yeah.
What the fuck mental gymnastics was
It
that?
cannot be both of those. You cannot have the you can't say God is a metaphorical claim. Oh, it's also factual. No, you can't fucking do that.
No, that was some Jordan Peterson fuckery right there.
The
Where he's
lobsters
saying
are coming,
it's a
people.
metaphorical truth. That's what he's saying. Right?
And let me break down the question real quick, because they're not getting this. Look, if they want to posit things like evolutionary processes as mechanisms, which they are, obviously, natural selection, gene flow, all processes, we all agree upon that. But if you're going to posit God as an explanation, what they're doing is called reductionism. They're taking, okay, let's go to the very, very foundation of the reason for things. Well, that's not my question. I'm not asking what's the cause of the mechanisms. I'm asking what's the mechanism that God used to create humans. And if you want to posit evolutionary mechanisms, that's fine. But then why do you need God? God's not an explanation at that point, because God's not explaining anything. You can take God out of the equations and the mechanisms are exactly the same. There's no change. So they're effectively saying, yes, we agree there's mechanisms by which humans were created, but it makes no difference whether God exists to them or not. That's effectively what they're answering right there.
Mic drop.
Why would it matter? So yeah,
Spoken like a true
they realized they just negated their reason for their own God.
And this is why Steve was all over Twitter saying, I'm just saying that everybody said my question was the best question.
Jeremy
Hashtag my friends think I'm
Who
smart.
said that? Who said that? Who said that?
All the
Jeremy,
people that Dean references are the ones that Steve thinks are so smart.
so Jeremy H in the chat says we got a super chat. Make a version of the Bible that replaces the word God with giggity. Now that would be worth reading.
I am the Lord, your giggity.
I am the Lord, your giggity. You shall have no other giggity before me.
Do not make
my giggity.
graven giggity statues. Can you just imagine just a giant statue with a big hate boner?
It would make
Giggity,
everything
why
better.
have you forsaken me?
It would make everything better, except for goddamn. You couldn't replace it for that because it wouldn't nearly be as effective.
Giggity damn.
Giggity damn.
That's so much more fun to say, though.
But wait,
Giggity damn.
so
Giggity damn.
I cried a little.
We
Gee,
might
are
be
you
able to make a
suggesting
short
that-
reading of that happen at some point.
We really should.
Yeah.
Hot
So all atheist monuments from now on are supposed to be like the statue of David with the hate boner. That's what you want for your atheist monuments.
Yeah, and then hang a sign on the boner that says giggity.
The one on the David statue is not big enough.
No, if you hang a sign that says giggity, you also need to have like a taped up broken disc of God's Not Dead just like taped to it.
Oh, poor edgy. Poor edgy emo atheist. She said, my phone died and what the fuck did I come back to? Sorry. Sorry.
You know what? Just be happy that you missed what you missed. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to continue?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Mm-hmm.
You meant metaphysical.
And I believe that Steve McCrae creates a false dichotomy here by assuming that there is one type of acceptable explanation, aka through scientific induction, when there is a second one, which is a personal agent, which we mean by God. Outside of scientific explanations that deal with the terms of laws and initial conditions, which is like what Steve gets in with mechanisms, we also have personal explanations in terms of an agent. For example, if I'm cooked, like let's say there's a tea boiling on the stove, we can make the scientific, of mechanisms that go into that process, the molecules that are, vibrating rapidly, yada, 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 and we get, boiling tea. But we get the second explanation, which is, well, I just want to make some tea. So, so we have two
What the
different
fuck is
causes, both
happening
of
right
which are-
now?
No, JC, leave brass alone. No, for real, leave brass alone. I like brass a lot, and brass is on the spectrum. Be nice to brass.
Brass is a good guy.
And he is very smart. He is very smart, and he thinks a lot about these things, and he researches them a lot.
I like brass. but
So
that
we
doesn't mean
will
it makes
all
any
be
sense.
very nice and respectful to brass on this stream while I'm present, because he is on the spectrum and he thinks a lot about these things. And
Doesn't make us right.
it does not make him right, but it makes us respectful.
It means
Well,
that
that's
we,
what this.
And
Hang on,
we
let's-
can
let's-
and we consider what he says with a rational perspective.
All right, well, let's look at it. One, there's no false dichotomy, because a false dichotomy would be when you set up two things that are not dichotomous. There is a dichotomy. There's a God created man via mechanisms, or he did not create man versus mechanisms. That is a true. Well, all dichotomies are technically true. That is a dichotomy. So, if he wants to, what I'm saying, if somebody wants to posit God as as an explanation, then what are the mechanisms? When we ask why something heats up, why the water heats up, we can use physics to do those. We know the mechanisms involved. Again, there's no need to bring in another explanation for those mechanisms, because that's not the question that's being asked. Why do we have these mechanisms? Those are metaphysical questions, but that's not really what the question's asking. And also, if God didn't exist, how would those mechanisms be any different? Would water not boil when exposed to 100 degree plus heat Celsius? Would it not boil if God existed or not existed? It would be the same way either way. So it's just extraneous to add God to as an explanation for these things. That's all.
but
Why are
isn't
you
DBT
agnostic
better?
again? What? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Oh, that's
We don't
a
need
whole
to get
listening
into
to my
this
microphone like it's
conversation.
gonna tell-
Nope.
that's a whole
Nope.
video.
Nope.
Now-
Oh,
Super
look at
chat.
TMS in the stream going, get to the good question.
I think you're talking
that guy.
about this for like an
All right, so
hour on
let's-
edge. Let's not do this again.
Let's read the super chats real quick, and then we'll get on to the next question.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Please.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You wanna
the
go
next
too?
one.
Yeah,
TMS.
Bullion. Bullion says the molecules say giggity. Another artist. Chrismer, he says copper is a superior metal. I don't know. Jeremy H also replaced Jesus with Sharon in Ozzy Osbourne's voice.
Sharon. Oh,
Shit,
Ozzy
Ozzy Osbourne,
Osbourne.
Sharon Osbourne.
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so are
All
we
right.
going
I
to
think-
skip to the next
I think
question?
the copper thing was for Mr. Brass, I think.
And in terms of the hot water, it should be Giga T.
Oh my god. Oh,
Paul made a
people
pun.
know that I know you. God damn it. Dad joke. Where's
I
my
have a
Rhino?
thermos
He'd be
of right
clapping.
now.
That was for Rhino.
That was
Yeah, they
right.
say I'm the king of dad jokes. No,
God
Paul is
damn
the
it.
king of dad jokes now.
Okay.
Do it.
They're legitimate. One deals with the mechanistic, and one deals with the agent and its volition. I also believe that he goes really into, like, he really just points more to induction rather than deduction, which is false, because deduction is how we do mathematics, logic, some parts of history, and even theoretical physics. If he really is, though, set on scientific explanations, I would recommend Johann Rotz, because he makes good videos on this.
Yeah.
where he points out mechanisms that which this could work in.
Yeah, I looked at a little bit of Crocoduck's supposed discrediting of Johann Ratz, and it's less than convincing. And it looks like somebody with something from an ideologue who's trying to defend his own indefensible position and career is trying to do to just badmouth somebody. He hasn't really given a direct answer to any of it that I've seen. But I said I was going to try and be quiet, but these people need to learn to take skepticism. Because they sure give a lot, and they sure expect everybody else to prove things to them.
Yes, I think Mr. Brass brought up a really good point about the agent causation and deterministic causation. But it ties into something in scholastic metaphysics about concurrentism, which is basically saying that God causes everything to happen. But at the same time, he occasionally, and by occasionally I mean most often, he will. I mean, what I mean to say that God causes everything to happen, but at the same time, the secondary causes have causal power. Like, for example, with the example of the moon illuminating the Earth, the moon does not create light on its own. It gets its light from the sun.
Well, at least we're not flat
However,
earthers.
the moon does cause the Earth to be illuminated by reflecting the lights of the sun. And God's relationship with reality and causation is a bit like that. He's sort of like the engine in the machine, in the wheels of causation. And if God were to, per impossible, be eradicated from existence, then all of reality would cease to exist too, because all of reality is
we're not in reality.
dependent on
That's
God's
what I want to
existence.
see. I want to see if there's a difference in reality if God doesn't exist. That's what I'm asking. Show me.
Yeah.
Well, I
Like,
don't think that
they
you're
haven't
going to get an
proved
answer.
that God's a necessity for reality.
He's asserting that it is. He's saying that God is a necessary precondition for reality. I want to see why that has to be
But
the
that's
case.
an assertion, though. That's like
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, they can't say God's a necessary condition for reality as an assertion because they're presuppositionalist, essentially.
Oh my
they
God!
presuppose God is a necessity.
Yeah,
and then since God is a necessity, there's no reality without God. It's a presuppositional argument. All God arguments are presuppositional arguments because you presuppose God as the necessity for the argument.
Yeah, I think
every
I find it
apologist is a presuppositionalist.
I think I find it funny that if you actually research practically anything, like for instance, let's just take biology. If you're researching anything in biology, you can get as far as we've gotten without positing God.
Yes.
But if you posit God first, all of a sudden it's like, well, that must be the mechanism that God used. Like, no, all you're doing is throwing the goalpost way the fuck over there. Why is that even there? Just uproot that goalpost and keep on going this way. This way at least has progress and medicine and all kinds of other things.
Yeah, and just to let people know, look, there's nothing wrong with having precepts, but precepts are generally things that you have to have to make sense of things. For example, I presuppose the universe exists.
Right.
That without doing that, I can't even make heads or tails of the universe. I can't even reason. I can't do anything to observe anything, to formulate anything without presupposing that.
Yeah,
that's
you have
something
to
we
eliminate
all have to do. Right. We all don't have to presuppose God in order to have a cogent epistemic framework. It's not something that everybody has to have. It's not what's called a properly basic belief. But the acceptance of reality, that's something that is ubiquitous to every person on the planet. You have to assume reality is real in order to have reason and rationality and logic or anything else, right? You just can't have any of that if you just think, well, reality is not real. Okay, well, then I'm not going to have a conversation with you because you don't think you even exist.
Well, that's essentially Paul's thing. Like, your two things are that the universe exists and what is
and
it?
And then we can learn from it.
You can observe the universe and learn
that we can learn things from it.
Models and predictive modeling from it.
Yeah.
I like how Dean's stream is not constantly interrupted with super chats.
Don't discourage super chats on GE's stream.
No,
What's
Dean's
wrong with you?
No, it's just I'm just saying he doesn't seem to be thrown to his super chats very often.
Yeah, well, because the 12 people watching probably are already his 1 or 2 Patreons.
He's growing though. He's growing.
I I am
That's
curious.
because you're playing D&D with him all the time, GC. You're helping support his channel. For the record, GC plays, like, what do you do? I don't know. Is it Dungeons and Dragons or what is it?
No, I don't know. It's just some game with Andrew, actually. And it's funny because, like, Andrew and I fight all the time on Twitter, but then we play games. They're both pretty good. I don't mind either one of them. They're both kind of cool.
Right. You're probably the reason they have Patreons. I'm just saying. So, just say
Well, I
thanks
do have a lot of fun playing those games.
Yeah, let's try to get to
Yeah,
GMS's.
Yeah, before he loses his mind in the chat. My God, calm down.
I would like to say this though before we go in. Apparently, Dean has 6 patrons on Patreon, which means for some reason I have as many or more patrons as him, and I think that's really sad because I'm a garbage.
Cirrus, you're awesome. Everybody go sub to Cirrus. He's great. I enjoy his.
All right.
Let's do it. If I have to listen to GMS's crap one more time, I swear to God. I said I'd quit YouTube.
You don't like Spartans?
The Book of Job, they talk about the 4 corners of the earth. Even fundamentalist Christians, for the most part, interpret that as metaphorical because we know there are no 4 corners of the earth. So when we find something in the Bible that doesn't necessarily reflect fact when interpreted literally, how can we definitively tell that that was intended
Because the choice
to be
isn't
interpreted
literal versus
metaphorically,
metaphorical. There's more
and is
choices
actually
than
Stop
that.
talking
No,
over
I'll
him.
just talk over him. There's more
What
choices
are
than
your
literal and
reasons
physical.
for not being a Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, or
Yeah. Okay. All right. I will just add that. This is a classic atheist false dichotomy. Is it literally true or is it metaphorical? I'm sorry. There's more choices than those two,
That's not his
including
question,
allegory.
Because what Dean just did is took an honest, good question that GMS asked. And by the way, surprising GMS asked a good question. Kidding.
Here's that guy. Get him. Go on Twitter right now. Stick him on Steve.
But he instead of saying, okay, well, the question is, how do we determine which parts are metaphorical, which ones are not? He's just saying, oh, well, you just have a false dichotomy. You're just saying now it has to be all metaphorical, all allegorical. Well, no, that's not what fucking GMS said.
That's not what he said. He said, what mechanism do you what do you use to determine what you interpret as metaphorical and what you interpret as literal, which is a valid question.
Valid and vastly different.
Do that all the time.
And a lot of his people would answer that question because I've asked that question on Twitter, and I've had Catholics say basically the Catholic Church tells them what.
Yeah, people tell us what to do.
I will say that's whether I agree with it or not. That's a fair answer, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's like they'll say, well, the scholars of the church
Honest.
go through the Bible and they try to figure out which is true and which isn't and why, and then they tell the rest of the congregation, and that's the whole basis of the Catholic Church. So that's what the answer should be.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very fair question.
But it's funny because like half of the people that are on his server are Catholics, so they would know this answer, right?
Well, because he's Catholic and he surrounds himself with Catholics and he lives in his bubble. In the chat, GM Skeptic said, "What are those choices, Dean? Do you have to move on, or can you actually explain for once?"
No, we cannot explain.
No, he can only straw man.
Right.
That's what he did.
So Brian Stevens says, "Look at the trees. Checkmate, you heathen."
Oh, that's Paul's favorite. Paul's favorite argument is look at the trees.
Allegory is a type of metaphor. Allegory is actually a metaphor it's usually sustained throughout the whole context of a story or something along those lines. So if you have the whole thing, it's all allegorical. That's one single metaphor that's transitioned to the whole story. That's what an allegory is. So it is a type of metaphor.
I'm going to read
what those stories. When Jesus says he's talking in a parable, he says he's talking in a parable.
Can I read what GMS said so he can be represented here?
Yes.
Okay, so the fact.
He has to come in.
Yeah, he did. No, he was busy. And now we're pretty full. The fact that there is not one answer shows that God provided no way for everyone to know that. So God is a flawed author.
Amen.
If the intent of the author is to convey something, the intent is to convey, how you should interpret what they're being written. The Bible is very confusing because the Bible has 66 authors, and you're now dealing with the intent of all of them as well, because they do throw their own little
Right.
It's got more than 66 authors. There's 66 books, and many of those books were written by many more authors.
Well, no, I'm
There's
talking
more
about
than
the
66.
Even Genesis clearly had multiple authors because there's
Oh,
two.
yes,
There's
absolutely.
two different creation stories. Anybody who read Genesis?
Yeah,
The
I was
first
about to
time
say-
I read Genesis, I was like, "Oh, there's people. Oh shit, there's people again. Why are there people again?"
Whatever Ezra was thinking, he was freaking high when he compiled that.
Yeah,
Paul,
like just
Paul might know this question, but I know that like I think in Genesis, doesn't God talk as if there's more than one God? Like he's
Yes.
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So
God
it's
of the
like- it's like
Bible
God was-
acknowledges other gods.
Trinitarians will tell you that he was talking to Jesus and the Holy Spirit because they were all already there.
No.
Yeah,
Right,
or the
but the parts
Council
of
of
the
God.
Enuma Elish that he copied also, it's all
Elohim.
it's very polytheist, as Jews, were up until 500 BC. So
Well, in the Bible, God clearly competes with other gods.
yeah,
Multiple times.
including ones that were allegedly fake and pagan ones. So
That would have been a good name for you too, Paul. Polytheist.
I'd say, didn't Christian Anarchist
That's
go
my
over
other
that in
channel.
his response to this?
I didn't watch Christian
I
Anarchist.
haven't finished watching it. I only got the first few minutes.
I haven't finished watching this response yet.
You never will. You never will.
Also,
never
can't
get
be done.
Okay, so we have a super chat from Reese because there are more choices than fact and no fact, which I think we kind of talked about.
But again, the question goes to how do you evaluate what parts to be, facts, metaphorical, allegorical? How do you evaluate things? And Dean has no idea how to answer that question.
well, Dean's answer actually is that the Bible alone isn't true. He's pretty insistent on that.
He's pretty consistent on what? That the Bible's not true?
He doesn't believe in sola scriptura. He believes he's a prima scriptura person, so he doesn't. He thinks that you need the Bible and all kinds of other revelations.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, because Catholic.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So GM Skeptic also said Gnostic Christians will say it was the evil creator God in Genesis and the benevolent savior God in the New Testament.
Well, aren't those the same God? Okay, so here was one of my problems when I read the Bible because I was very, very, very devout. I was an Anglican, so I wasn't, I wasn't a biblical literist ever, but I was very devout. And my question always was, what when I read the Bible, because I'd only ever been essentially dictated and indoctrinated with the New Testament. I mean, I'd been told the children's stories in Sunday school about the Old Testament, but that wasn't what was hammered into my head. When I actually read the Bible, and you start from the goddamn beginning when you read it, and turns out that's the old fucking Testament. I had some issues with the fact that God himself was completely inconsistent. The God that I was taught, the God that people dictated to me, was a God of benevolence and a God of love and a God of trust and a God that if you gave him your faith, he would save you. And he sacrificed his son for that. And the God of the Old Testament was God who would fuck you the fuck up if you didn't like him.
Right.
Or suggested you didn't like him. Or didn't follow his ridiculously arbitrary rules.
He'll shove a snake up your ass, right, Shannon?
He will shove a snake right up your ass. And if you don't watch that Bible, if you don't watch KC and GC's Bible or GE's Bible podcast, I don't know what's wrong with you because that was one of my favorites. That was one of the first things I saw.
So we got Reese that says because there are more choices than fact and no fact.
We already read that.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Okay. Milwaukee Atheist says, on the multiple gods thing, I think the references in Genesis are referring to ancient Ugaritic gods, including Yahweh, El, Baal, Esra, and more. And then Dustin Furness, he says, if the talking snake, the flat earth, why not God also a metaphor? Or maybe all of the Bible is lies and a metaphor.
Yeah.
So I agree. That's a good point.
Also in the chat, not a super chat, but Prophet of Zod is confused by the fact that having a snake up your ass is a punishment.
That just sounds like Asian porn.
We love you, Zod. We love you.
Subscribe to him because he's amazing. He's one of the most his debate on the Great Debate Community that he did with Steve, you can tell me who the guy is. Greg Gleiler? Greg Geiler?
Greg Gleiler.
On morality was
He did a good job.
was when I fell in love with him. He did the most. He was more prepared for a debate than I think I've ever seen anybody be prepared online for a debate. Like, to the point that I reached out to him afterwards, and I was like, "Not only am I subscribed to you now, we're best friends. You don't know it yet, but we're best friends." And now I'm even his cartoon series. He put a cartoon series, like he's got a cartoon series about the Bible, and Paul and I are Adam and Eve in it because I'm
might
in
be
love with
friendship
him.
involved, I think, maybe.
I just watched that episode, and it's so freaking hilarious.
Oh my god, like Zod, and he went to the Faithless Forum too. Like,
he did.
Everybody needs to know who he is.
Yeah. I did follow Friday. Is that what it's the hashtag FF today? I did that, and I did Zod today.
That's all you need,
Just
really.
saying.
Like,
Of course, that was mainly because he didn't follow me. So no, he didn't. He
a
does
little
now.
over 2,000 subscribers.
You're like,
and
if I
honestly,
add him, maybe he'll like me. Even though we've met him.
God likes me.
We went to a conference.
He did.
together.
He did too.
Okay. Are you guys ready to continue?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's get to questions.
as ready as we can be.
Multiple gods in the like Genesis, but all you guys are familiar with the JEDP theory, where it's not just multiple gods. There's reasons there's multiple authors that wrote the first 5 books of Moses, and that each one of them had different understandings of gods, and so that's why there's just so much discontinuity in Genesis, because all these different authors, one of them's using Elohim, one of them is using Yahweh, one of them is using Jehovah or whatever. They're using all these different terminologies based upon what they think the gods, the council of the gods are. And so they did believe that there was a council of God, the Elohim, which is multiple gods, and that God was one of them, if some of them believe he was the head of them. But yes, back in the Old Testament, it was polytheistic or henotheistic. And then in the later years, they shied away from that. It came all obviously monotheistic or monotheistic laterist. And they don't want to try to talk about that old stuff. They don't want to say that, back then they believed in multiple gods. They did. And God was fine with it until he wasn't.
God never changes. Never.
Just
I like
more.
your question.
Go.
All right, we ready to move on?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Oh, Lloyd.
Yeah, well, however there's, I think both pronunciations are right. Whatever. Allegory, simile, metaphor, the supernatural and the spiritual. And by the way, since apparently you're not able to understand that there's such a thing as a spiritual understanding, that's your limitation, not ours. There's a lot of spiritual significance to some things that we would not say literally physically happen, that you would say literally, and we'd probably say more like physically. You're intentionally dense, it seems like, and aggressively ignorant because you don't ask for further explanation.
That's a straw man argument. You glazed over his question and talked over him and then made a straw man out of it, you asshole.
I like that he says they didn't ask, but the whole video is just one big question. Like, it's question after question.
Yeah, it's just literally like 14 questions. You didn't even ask. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. I think that he totally strawman this question.
Yeah, he talked over him. He's not stupid.
All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Stop playing with your silver penis.
To give us this psychotomy. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my God.
At least use some lube first.
Hey, GC, I just want to say.
What is this guy's?
Or even
no longer
on camera, we go off air. That's fine too.
I no longer have a sock on it, even though that was a suggestion before.
Maybe need one.
Wait, are we still talking about the Swedish porn thing?
Sturgis is reenacting Swedish porn over there.
No, Pam is taking my sock.
She's gonna put the sock on it.
Why are you taking my sock?
All right, let's jump to question 3. Let's do it.
Yes.
We can do it. We can get through. We can get to at least 3 questions.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Which was
I was
also
17.
common in ancient Near Eastern. So
Yeah. Nobody understood any of those, and no humor apparently either. Like, I've seen literally a joke that St. Paul made in order to be sarcastic and biting, used to claim that St. Paul said you should kill gay people. He did no such thing, you dishonest bastards. You got to look at that whole passage in context, and he was very obviously making a dripping sarcastic point. That's just one of
That's
Very obvious.
Okay, I'm sorry, but like I don't care if you're quote unquote trying to make a joke. Like saying anything about killing homosexuals should not be joked about because it actually happens. Even back during whatever the fuck time he was talking about. Like, I mean,
well, plus we also get the out of context argument.
Yeah.
You have to look at it in context. Like hating gays is fine in this context. Like I don't even get that.
Yeah, no, the word of God's only okay if you read it in the appropriate context. Yeah, you have to deeply study it and understand it and know all of the history surrounding it. You also you have to have read the entire book from start to finish, known all of the history of the fucking world in context from now to and be able to place yourself in the minds of the people who wrote it so that you can understand exactly what they meant. And only in that context can it be understood, because that's fucking reasonable.
I love how Paul is now telling jokes. Like, this is the first time I've ever heard of Paul having doing stand up. You know,
He had a touring thing around the Middle East. It was fun.
Yeah.
They stoned
you
people
can make a joke about
at every
anything,
location.
I think you can legitimately make a joke about pretty much anything if it's a joke and it's understood to be a joke.
Yeah, of course. And I look at. I don't think this should be better than comedy. And I think that there's some off-color jokes, and you find it funny, fine. If you don't, fine. I don't think we should really question about jokes. But to say that, oh, you're taking something out of context when I don't know how other things, what are the context to take it, that's kind of a different story, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, ready to move on?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck your jokes, Paul.
Another minute. Oh, we have the why aren't you Hindu question, right?
Why aren't you Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, etc.?
Let them get it out. This question has been answered thousands of times and has countless perfectly good answers. Why don't you know them?
Follower of one of the many other non-Christian faiths? Is it because you've devoted enormous time and energy to systematically investigating and debunking all these other religions? If you haven't done this, how can you in all honesty claim that your religion is superior? And if you're only a Christian
Siddhar's, right?
because you
he
happen
sounds like
to
he's got like a tea in his hand while he's talking.
Well, no, that's Lloyd.
Yeah. Oh, Lloyd. Yeah.
been born into a Christian family, or you were raised in a culture or society where Christianity is commonplace, what about all the other people who, by a twist of fate, have been raised believing one of the many other religions that God has allowed to proliferate?
So I said, Engine's right. I can't stop myself. This is one of the most arrogant, condescending, elitist bits of psychological manipulation that the atheist movement does, because that's an incredibly abusive thing to say to somebody who was raised in a religion.
How is that abusive?
You asked the question and now it's abusive. I don't understand. That's what I'm saying. You want that, ask questions. You get a question and all of a sudden it's psychologically abusive.
It was a legitimate question.
Does Dean think that all just do anti-max microaggressions?
And honestly, I don't think this is a difficult question to answer. I don't think
asking us why or how we can come to any moral decision, though, that's fine. But
suggesting that we're all communists who want to.
I think it is regional. I think that our beliefs are because of our region, our upbringing, our family, and you are more likely to believe certain belief systems of the region than you are if you're not of that region. I mean, how many people that are in India are
all you have to do is look at a map and show like the color coded maps of which areas and which religion, and you'll see it clearly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Does he not remember what he said in the beginning of the video about us? Talking, and he wants to talk about things that were nasty and abusive. Like, he started out this entire video doing nothing but spewing a bunch of like vile falsehoods about all atheists.
True.
And then because a question made sense was asked, and he probably doesn't know the answer to, he has to spin it like it's a abusive.
Oh, everybody should know
wrong,
that answer. Yeah, let's see what his answer is. I bet it's a non-answer.
Yeah.
You want to hear the answer? Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it.
We have a super chat first.
Event Horizon funding Christ tards say God hates and everyone else who disagrees. That's true. Also, the reason why I said the whole thing about the whole joke deal with whatever the fuck he was talking about before was because, I mean, I don't... Well, I mean, it's not that there's not a context in which somebody can make that kind of joke and it be funny. It's just that I doubt that that context was really the context that he was talking about. Just seems more or less like an excuse to be like, oh no, he was joking, but you know, it really the person wasn't. I feel like that might be more the situation. I haven't looked into that particular thing, but I don't know.
Watch Ricky Gervais' Humanity if you have it on Netflix. He talks about this very thing. It's great.
Yeah, that's actually good.
Let's see. Sovereign D. Heresy says God is good all the time in context.
Yeah, in context. If you understand the way people lived at the time.
We ready to get to GC's question?
Oh!
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. Yeah, Mute Steve right now.
Truly it is. And it presupposes that that religion is wrong, or that you, with your atheist worldview, are more correct. It auto presupposes
we are
that
more
your
correct,
atheism
okay.
is the correct answer. Well, this goes back to the question with Godless Engineer. I am raising my child as a Christian because I believe it is true. And thanks to people like you, I now educate him about all the lies that we hear. And all the abusive ways atheists may behave towards him. And this is a very good example. You'd be making him feel inferior and like he was brainwashed or something, even though he's more religious than I am in some ways.
Don't let your kid watch YouTube.
That doesn't feel like Godless cranium to me.
That's the worst part about when I was brainwashed. The worst part was when people made me feel bad about it. That was really the worst.
Yeah. Okay. Since he called me out by name, I just want to say that I don't think that it's necessarily abusive to raise your kid as a Christian. I think that it can be done in very non-abusive ways. But the way that Dean has painted himself here, talking about how he's just preparing his kid for the lies that atheists tell, I mean, the things that he says are lies are legitimately not lies, so he's spreading propaganda to his kid. He's teaching his kid a false view of reality so that the kid can be hateful to people. And so I just don't understand why, like, he has to try to turn around the hate. Like, he has to paint, like, the questions as hateful questions. Like, I don't understand the concept of, like, a hateful question.
Well,
like,
and that question wasn't hateful at all. Like, at all. I feel like that was a perfectly legitimate question, and I don't even think he asked it in, like, a manipulative way. So I'm not really sure. Well, I feel like this is, like, victim complex, like, to fucking 17.
Well, I think that Dean heard Lloyd's question and was like, God damn, I am indoctrinated as fuck. Why you gotta make me feel indoctrinated?
It might be his way of going, like, trying to think, right? Like, he just spews a bunch of stuff, and then he's thinking while he's doing it, trying to think of an answer. I don't know.
His way of thinking is spewing nonsense? That's really impressive.
Okay, so from his perspective, I believe firmly that Dean firmly loves and cares for his kid. I believe that firmly. But I also believe that he believes that we're crazy, dangerous assholes. He believes that. He believes we're crazy, dangerous assholes. So he's teaching his kid that we're crazy, dangerous assholes because he wants to protect his kid from us.
I don't know about you, but I think Godless Cranium is.
Well, but like,
well, I'm the only one he plays D&D with too. So I don't know.
Yeah, which is weird.
Yeah, I don't know. See, that's the thing though, is I'm not so sure. I'm not sold on Dean thinking what he says he thinks, because like if
Well,
you
he
really
said
think,
the Jerry Springer thing too, though. That's what.
yeah, because if you really think that you're dangerous, or that atheists are all dangerous, a part of a mafia and all that, why would you play D&D with one, right? Like,
That's the thing.
it
like,
seems very strange to me. Strange behavior.
It's hard to give him, like, if you give him any rope, like saying he's abusive, then that rope is like, that's something he has forever now, right? Like, he'll just hold on to that. Even though telling your child to just hate, and not even, okay, so he never used the word hate, but to just mistrust a group of people, to just approach an entire group of people that are a growing group of people in the world, to just tell a child any group of people are dangerous and lying just because of what they believe. Like, isn't that the type of persecution that you're trying to fight against?
It's also really no different than saying that you can't trust these people. Well, you can't trust them because they're black.
Right.
You can't trust
Or
these
the
people
Christian.
because they're homosexual. You can't
Right.
trust these people
Right.
because they're like, you can literally insert things that people are because they chose to be, or like, for instance, with us, because we just happened to go down a path and it led there. Like, I know
Right.
with you and Paul, you guys tried hard to be Christian, and that's what led you to being atheists.
And what groups are generally telling people that they can't trust homosexuals? It's not atheists.
No, it's not. Not generally, yes. And
trust these people because they're religious.
All right, are we ready to try to get to GC's question?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure
Oh,
because
you had a question? Were you asking questions?
We haven't even gotten to his question.
Oh, Kyle, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
After the rope thing that Shannon was talking about, I just got this mental image of Dean holding a rope that leads to Godless cranium on all fours. Can you just
I mean,
Is that why he
GC
wears
already
the
has the
mask?
mask.
That's
Is it
my
the
rope.
same?
That's how I
So
get
what?
update the calendar.
Hey, GC, check your DMs later. I'm gonna have a present.
You're now my least favorite person.
Why did you have to give us that image, Kyle? You have to deal with Dean and that now?
Since the guy with the giant silver penis.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, let's see what they say.
All right. Let's play it. Tell me if you can hear this.
I can hear it.
No.
You can't
No.
hear this?
I can't hear it.
Oh wow. All right. Let
Get
me
it
just
together.
try something.
Get it together, guys.
There it is.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello. I had a major technical snafu. I'm glad the show kept going. However,
So are we.
Thank God. Phew.
An omnipotent, all-powerful God need a human sacrifice in order to forgive people their sins. If this being is truly capable of doing anything, has unlimited power and resources, and is all-loving, why would it require a brutal torture and killing? Why would it need a blood sacrifice and not just simply forgive people their sins, especially if it knew their motivations and could judge people according to their intentions? This question has always baffled me, even when I was a Christian. Anyhow, thanks for inviting me to take part in this video, Kyle. Cheers.
all right. I have about a 10-minute answer to that, but
Oh,
mostly
God, no.
I actually have a good answer.
mostly
At
has
least
to
he
do
didn't
with
Get that rope
assumptions
ready.
he
Dean.
has.
Get that rope ready.
What?
Oh, there's a 10-minute response.
Preach it, brother.
Let's get in there.
10 minutes.
Do it. Get all up in GC's business.
around the word sin, but let's let you got something, Buckley. Go ahead.
Oh yes. For me, I think I think one of the presuppositions he gives is what goodness is. And so, if I may, but first, I'd have to say, he makes several presuppositions. One of them is that Jesus was just a man. That is a big supposition. And if Christianity is true, then Jesus
That's
was
not
not
what I asked.
No. Oh
Oh,
my
that's-
God.
I didn't make any presupposition. I was asking as if you're a Christian, why would you believe that? Like, why would you believe that? Oh my God.
Oh,
yes, I think Jesus was a man, but that doesn't mean I'm asking the question from that presupposition.
You're about to have the shit
that
out of you.
Guys, before you go on with the question, I've got a birthday thing that I'm going to for a friend of mine tonight, so I'm gonna have to drop out here in just a second. And I wanted to tell you guys, thank you for inviting me tonight. This was a lot of fun. Sorry, GC, that I'm now your least favorite person, but I'll remember that.
I still love you, Kyle.
Thanks for joining.
You guys are my kids. I have to love you.
Thanks,
I
Mom.
have no choice.
Have fun, Kyle.
We've got
Later, Kyle.
the KC power.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so we got a few super chats. Mad Scientist 72, thank you for your super chat. Drew's book reviews. Religion sucks. That is all. Stay godless. See you later, Drew. I guess kind of seems like a sign off. Dustin Furness says that all true Islam or Christianity sends you to hell on nature of Jesus. Only one true special pleading. None true is the beginning of atheism. Okay, I think I know what he means, and I agree.
I get it.
Yeah.
So 5 seconds into his answer, he's already talking about something irrelevant. I'm kind of curious where he wants to go with this.
Yeah.
Because that had nothing to do with Godless's question at all.
No.
Nope. Straw man.
Not a man. He was the Logos, the second person of the Trinity, the eternal Son of the eternal Father. He was literally God, but he was also
It's a whole different
holy
game.
man.
Understand that. It's a very he wasn't just a guy.
Well,
I would also add that the proper understanding of sin is that, you know, the consequence of sin is about the same thing as the consequence of trying to break the law of gravity or something like that, or trying to break the laws of physics. You hurt yourself. And that's ultimately what sin's about. And by the way, I don't know how many times I have to say
Sins are against God.
Wait, so
trying to break the laws of gravity hurts you? What?
Well, yeah, you can't jump off a roof, and yeah, you'll find that out.
But Jesus does break the laws of physics because he gets raised from the dead.
Yeah.
So does it hurt God when that happens, or?
Yeah,
that's still not an answer to the goddamn question.
No, they're not. He's not going to.
It's not even a straw man. It's a full-on deflection.
Yeah, there's nothing cogent about this. Not even relevant to the question.
I'm kind of curious. Like, he said that sin is breaking the laws of physics. Like, what law of physics are you breaking by making like an engraven image of Jesus, or not Jesus, of God?
God damn it! God damn it! God damn it! God damn it! What law?
I'm breaking the laws of physics, Shannon. God damn it!
Well, I think what he's trying to say though is that
I'm a wizard.
I think what he's trying to say is that it's not that it's the laws of physics, but it's like the laws of physics. So he's saying that it's an immutable law and it's been broken. Like, if you're sinning, then you're breaking it. So something has to be done in order to fix it, I guess.
What? No, but that's not the way the laws of physics work. You don't break laws.
You can't break it. Yeah, you can't break the laws of physics and then fix it.
You've got to correct this, or physics is fucked.
Yeah,
That's not
it's a shitty analogy. Yeah,
you just literally actually fucking can't, because that's the way things work.
This is the plot of Avengers 4, apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, you discover something that actually breaks the law of physics, you actually get famous. You know, you don't pay penance for it in science. You don't go, oh, I broke the law of physics, I need to pay penance to the science gods. You're like, no, here, let me my Nobel.
Here's something for all the nerds out there. Jesus gets dusted.
Let's see. Sovereign D. Heresy says the Trinity. God sacrificed himself to himself. Coffee frog.
But I still want to know why he thinks that somebody has to die in order to fix these laws of physics that were broken.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
You'll never know.
I get the theology of Christianity, though, that like Adam and Eve sinned, and like the first thing that God did after they sinned was killed a lamb, so for fur and whatnot. So therefore, they have to kill things forever in the future.
Still streaming.
Isn't it kind of like certain religions where it's like, yeah, no, the sun won't come up if we don't have our virgin sacrifice. That's a whole lot like we have to pay our penance so the laws of physics will continue.
Right. Well, and I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with the news, but recently there was a mass infant grave uncovered where people sacrificed a whole bunch of kids to stop an El Nino or something like that storm.
Oh, in South America, yeah.
Yeah. So are
Well,
we ready to go ahead?
I was just going to say human sacrifice or some kind of sacrifice has been like throughout religions before Christianity, where
Right.
have always been around, right? So
Yeah.
Christianity is just doing the same thing other religions did.
Except they had the one sacrifice to rule them all.
Yeah.
Combine them.
Like Lord of the Rings, Jesus.
It is possible one of Dean's minions will actually answer the question if we keep going.
Maybe. Philo Tiger's not in there, though. I'm a little disappointed in Philo Tiger.
No, I'm not. I'm not disappointed at all.
All right.
Stop invoking his name.
Finally, will try to ramble some kind of.
Oh my
mumble
God.
jumble. You know what's funny is I bet he would have answered the same shit to any of these questions. The exact same thing you just said could have applied to any one of these questions.
Same
They're not
strategy.
applied.
Interrupt, deflect.
Except in a boring, nasally voice.
Okay, so let's go ahead and try to get through GC's thing, and then we'll have to download it and like do it next week or something.
Yeah, then we'll call it a
We'll have
night.
to do a part 2.
Oh, we might have to. Because
Yeah.
I'm getting higher grade alcohol for next week.
That's fair. That's a good choice.
Say this. Not all Christians believe you're saved if you just believe Jesus is God. And not all Christians believe you're going to hell if you have trouble with that proposition. I get tired of having to explain that over and over again, and it does fit here. It's like what you're asking is, why is the universe imperfect? Because in your godless universe with no morality except whatever you happen to feel at the moment, you still got the same hideous universe full of people doing bad things and hurting each other and lots of pain. And you got no one to answer for it.
The point was, why would an all-powerful God need to blood sacrifice for something to be forgiven, and why not just forgive instead?
It was sort of like
Engine.
to see that.
It's Engine.
That's Engine.
So
Engine.
White Engine had to step in.
Yeah, had to step in and be
And
like,
be
whoa.
like, here's what the actual goddamn question was.
He gets it right. He actually gets the question right. How can he answer?
Yes.
Thank you, Engine.
Yeah.
Ew. Don't know.
Yeah. You know,
In this case, yeah. Thank you for at least interrupting that.
yes,
that guy.
but
Engine would get it right,
after
so-
what I saw today on Discord,
Okay.
No.
So let's continue. Oh wait, Mr. Atheist had to leave. He said, "I gotta go, but I love you all, and I thought of something clever to say. Finally, Steve, I aspire to have your beard one day."
Don't we all?
Yep.
No.
When you reach my age, I hope she doesn't. But the rest of you, when you reach my age, well.
if I wanted to, I could. Don't you judge me.
Hey, if I had a beard, I would wear like dangles in it.
Yeah.
Don't assume my gender.
Baubles. I would wear baubles and
Just
look
'cause
fucking
I'm
fabulous.
Okay, so
Atheist is my gender.
White Engine has set up Dean to answer the actual question. So let's see if he brings it home.
No.
That it wasn't because it was. Oh my God.
No, the thing is that if crimes go unpunished, then it wouldn't be just.
Well, exactly.
So God, as human form, took the burden of everyone's sins, past, present, and future, onto himself.
Well, yes, but there's.
If I also want to point out is that like as Engine said, it was about just, him being just, and the fact of the matter is like Saint Anselm of Canterbury, more than 900 years ago, in his book Why God Became Man, was pretty much answering this question. Basically, God became man, so so really man could become God in a way, to bridge the gap between the two. And the reason why he needed to do the sacrifice of that was to pay off a debt that we as humans had collectively put in there.
And you're not even a Christian, but you're explaining it pretty well.
Well,
And
I would like
and
to.
it was a penal substitution.
Well, hang on.
Well,
he's playing
okay,
it
that's
as
one
the
type of
Christian narrative,
theology.
but he's
Go
still
ahead,
not giving
Buckley,
an answer.
because
That
penal
was a funny
substitution
phrase.
is not the only theology. In any case,
Uh,
go ahead, Buckley.
Oh my
Well,
God, I feel like
well, here's
Paul's.
the thing.
Go ahead.
Good.
I was just gonna. I feel like Paul's one of the best ones to analyze this. Like I've been in engagements with a lot of Christians, and I've never met a Christian that has an understanding of the Bible, and like Paul. So I feel like Paul's the best one to engage.
You're talking about me because I was fixated on his phrase penal substitution.
Oh my god!
You know, that proves that you have the best understanding possible. To you, the whole thing's just dick.
No, it
Yeah.
proves that I have bad taste in men. That's all
Yeah,
that proves, sir. That's all that proves. That's all
No,
that
but
proves.
To be fair, that honestly, like this, when you are a Christian, this makes 100% sense. Like there was sin, and in order for it to be just, and you believe that your God is just, so that He can be just and loving at the same time, someone's got to pay the bill. There's a bill, and someone's got to pay it, and the what we all should be paying is death. So, like, in a way, GC, your question about blood, like I was like, when I was a Christian, that wouldn't have fazed me for 5 seconds. Like that never disturbed me. Like we were all supposed to die, so one person dying instead. I mean, the ratios are weird, but the fact that it's blood for blood, that just makes total sense as a Christian.
But I mean,
This-
we all still
How
die.
does Paul answer this question, like, and you guys go at like, because Paul was.
Yeah, I got a question for Paul. I got a question for Paul.
Let everybody go with Paul. I'm gonna meet now.
Fuck ding. Let's talk to Paul. So,
Yep.
here's a question. And I put your Christian hat back on as you were back then.
Back on.
So
Make sure you can take it off after, though, please.
because I understand what you
Yeah, for
you
fuck's
said,
sakes,
and
please.
what the other person said. That is the Christian narrative. That's a response that does fall within the Christian line. Now, here's my question though: if you're positing 100% just God, then where does the mercy come in? Because obviously you cannot have merciful God and 100% merciful God and all just God, because they're not compatible with each other. The mercy is literally the suspension of justice. So a God that dispenses justice continually because he's all just cannot give mercy, and an all merciful God cannot give any justice. So how did that reconciled?
The reconciliation is again, it just steps back. So the fact that He's willing to save even one person, like forget that that saving everybody or not saving everybody. The fact that He would even save one when the penalty should be death, when you're a Christian, shows that He is a merciful God.
But then you can't be all just.
No, well, that's why you need. So in order to be just, someone's got to pay the bill. Like, I mean, they view it very transactionally, or at least I did. My denomination, I shouldn't speak for all the denominations. My denomination viewed it very transactionally. There was these grievances or these bills to be paid. Someone's got to pay them. And so the merciful God who is owed the debts is basically saying, well, I'll let my son pay for some of you, whichever ones of you want. And the all merciful part is that the offer is extended to everyone. So it's not that everyone automatically receives it, but everyone, at least in my denomination, we believed that everyone equally received the chance to get the gift if they so wanted it, and that was the all merciful part. So I'm not saying it makes sense, but that's what made sense to me at the time.
And they don't all get the same amount. Like babies that wouldn't be able to know about Jesus wouldn't get the same as an 80-year-old, or even not even just babies, but if you talk, say a 10-year-old dies of something and somebody lives to 80 years old, how is that just that it would be a 10-year-old that dies gets 10 years and the 80-year-old gets 80 years to think about it?
Well, but the 10-year-old, if they're before age of consent, they're lucky because they actually died before they were accountable for their stuff.
Well, whatever the age of consent is, what's the age of consent? So 18? Is it
well,
like God
no,
says,
everyone believes something different. So there's no standard age of consent for Christianity. But you're absolutely right. I'm not saying it's true. And obviously, for me, the better example is there's some tribe in Africa, versus the person who grew up in a town with 17 churches. did those people have an equal chance to hear the message of Christ? No. And that's actually partially is the guilt trip that is laid upon we Christians. The guilt that was laid upon us was that, we have to, it's up to the church to rectify this problem. God set it up so that it could be. And if there's some tribe in Africa that didn't hear it, it's because of a Christian failure, not because of a God failure, because guilt is such a motivating factor and a motivating tool. They basically are laying it at the feet of God's plan was that you, Mike, would go over there. And if you don't do
you
it,
interfered with God's plan.
Right. So the perfect plan for them to be able to receive salvation was screwed up because you wanted to go to a party instead.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a Christian, this all makes sense.
Tracts too. There's a certain tract that I don't know who keeps on leaving it, but there's a person who keeps on leaving a tract on my register where I work, like about once a month or so. And it's the one where this girl is told by her friend, hey, I don't believe in God. And she's like, oh, well, that's okay. Everybody gets to believe what they want. And then like 10 pages later, she has this dream where her friend dies and is burning in hell. And she's like, oh, God, I have to warn her. And then she gets up and then all of a sudden she gets this note that apparently her friend passed away and she panics. She's like, no, this is so horrible. It's like it was your fault that you didn't tell her about God. And that's the whole message that's in that tract. I don't know why that thing keeps on being left on my fucking desk. But
well, if you've seen Ray Comfort's movie about homosexuality, it is so true to what I believed. Like when they are hating on homosexuals, they think that they are trying to save them from a fate worse than death. Like they don't view it as hate. They are trying to warn them that the building they're standing in is on fire. From their perspective, it just all makes sense.
That's kind of why the last, or one of the last videos that I did on my channel was, is hell a threat? Just kind of going through the whole dichotomy and going, hey, if somebody's offering you salvation, aren't they also just offering you that threat of hell if you don't, even if they don't say it and they don't mean it, even if they're meaning it in all the best ways, there's still that underlying threat.
Well, the weird thing is that hell doesn't really show up until Revelations, right? So it's not really mentioned.
It's called death or the grave up until the New Testament.
Well, it's called Sheol.
Technically, it's referred to as Hades in the Bible. Like prior to that, in the Jewish whole theology of it, it's Hades or Sheol. And
Sheol, yeah.
And everybody pretty much goes to the same place, except for like the people that are the bad people stay on one side of Sheol while the good people stay on another. And so basically the whole concept of heaven and hell came in with Jesus and whatnot. And what I'll say about the whole sacrifice and everything like that is that in order to overcome the annual and daily sacrifices that Jews had to go through, which we're actually discussing that right now on our Bible podcast. I mean, they had to sacrifice at least 2 lambs a day. Like every day they had to wake up in the morning and kill a lamb. Before they go to bed at night, they killed a lamb. Just every single day killing a lamb. So like for Jesus, like in order to overcome those covenants, you have to have something stronger. What's stronger than like human blood magic? Like that's the only thing that's stronger is somebody dying for these sins or whatnot. And that's why the Jesus story perfectly mimics like the Yom Kippur ritual and the sacrificing of a lamb to God. That's why he's referred to as the lamb, because they had this whole idea that you had to have a death to atone for what this perceived sin was. But you see, the problem with that whole theology is that it only comes up with Christianity or with Judaism. Like this whole idea of sin. It's a made-up disease that you get from birth that they require you to feel like shit and ask for forgiveness for your entire life so that you can maybe go to heaven, because you don't really know if you're going to go to heaven or not.
Oh, but they know. They know. They'll tell you they know.
Yeah.
Well, the elect will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
So,
only 40,000 of them, though. So, what are the chances you'll come across one of those?
I gotta tell you, there seems to be a lot more than that out there, though, isn't it?
No, there's only like what is it like
44,000, but there seems to be an awful lot more people that get.
They all think they're the elect.
And the way you become elect is you ask and then you get an answer. And so far, everybody who's asked supposedly becomes elect. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
I actually heard one or two people that actually have said that they know they're reprobate.
Shut your mouth.
And that are still Calvinists, yeah, but they believe that they're reprobates.
So you've met a Calvinist who said, I asked and I got the answer and I'm reprobate and that I'm not one of the elect.
There was one on the Council of Google Plus a very, very, very long time ago.
That's an honest person. That's an honest person who doesn't realize they're an atheist. That asked him was like, nothing fucking happened.
I still don't understand though from like so I was just thinking about Paul's explanation there. I get where Paul's coming from with the transaction thing, but if you took it from like a human perspective, right? So say I'm a business owner and there's like a whole restaurant full of people and they all have this bill and I know that they can't pay it. But if I don't pay it, then they're all going to starve to death or something. Why wouldn't I just pay the bill? Why, like that was basically my question, right? It's like, why wouldn't this owner so I'm an omnipotent business owner that, all these people owe me something. But if I truly love them, right? Like if I loved everybody in my restaurant, why would I let them starve? Why wouldn't I just pay the bill and say, okay, go on your way, right? Or in the least case scenario.
But paying the bill there is the blood sacrifice. Like you're skipping over. You're yada over. So by paying yourself, you
but
still
God
need
is cool with all the money. Why can't he just say, hey, you know what?
I print the money though, right? So
well, I guess he paid it by his son, but that's still it doesn't really make much sense.
It still doesn't make sense, right? Because
yeah,
like I'd be the money printer and Jesus would be the bill or whatever. So, and even if you took it from that perspective where you're saying, okay, well, Jesus paid the bill, like he died, right? Why then would I expect all of them to have to believe in that thing and expect all these other things and them to do all these certain things in order to get to heaven when I could just say, look, you're forgiven, you're good.
See, I don't think did he, okay, in the Christian narrative, it's not that him dying that says pay the bill because he was resurrected. So it wasn't like that was it. I thought he took upon the sins in the Garden of Gethsemane. That's when he took on all the sins of the earth and the world and blood from every pore. That's the time when he took on the sins.
Because that's when he asked God, hey, can this cup be somewhere else? And God was like, no, fuck you.
Yeah, but he still died. Like Steve, he still died, even though it was like 2 weeks later. I mean, the penalty was still paid. The fact that he was able to, print some more money or come back to life is irrelevant. Okay, but it didn't happen in Gethsemane. Like if Gethsemane happened and then not the crucifixion, that's not enough.
Right. So even if you okay, so say everything that you just said made sense, Paul. It still wouldn't make sense to me because not only is he the business owner, but he alone made the rules. So he made the rules that everybody I would essentially have the power of saying you guys will never have to go hungry again. You'll magically have food every single day, and I still let them starve, right? Like it doesn't make
right. But the analogy you're making, you have to be what's the word I'm looking for? You have to be omni-commercial. You have to be all commercial as well, right? So because you have to have an allegory for or something that parallels the justice that God has. So you have to be willing to say, I'm willing. I can give everyone food, but I also have to serve this perfect commerce.
Right. But but if you have all the power in the universe, you would be able to serve that perfect commerce, no problem. Right.
And he did that no problem by I paid the bill myself. But then he's a bit of a jerk because I paid the bill for everybody, but everyone's got to come kiss my ring before I'll do that. Or before I'll let you have your mint at the end of the meal or something, right? Like it's
right. So even if you twist your mind into it, you still have an asshole business owner.
you still do, yeah. You still have who made a condition on this. Well, I'll pay for everybody, but I want everyone to come. Tell me my hat looks nice.
And he's also the one that made the rule that you had to pay in the first place, right?
Correct. Yeah. No. He set up the system. Absolutely.
With perfect knowledge of what the outcome would be.
Not to mention, he locked all of his customers in the restaurant because he created the restaurant and all the customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. He made everyone hungry. He could have made everyone have full bellies, but he made everyone hungry. I mean, there's when you think about it a lot, it breaks down. But but just when you ask why blood, it's like, well, of course it needs to be blood because it was my blood otherwise. Like that's just when you're a Christian, that's maybe it was for some, but for me, it was certainly not a stumbling block at all.
Well, the reason why I asked that part in that way was because I know that like in other religions, blood was a big deal, right? Like not just in Christianity, but in most of the religions that predates Christianity, right? So
sure,
I was trying to make the connection that your religion is no different than the other religion, like a lot of other religions, right? So,
and very much as John was saying, like Christianity is a sequel to Judaism, so you can't have a sequel where you totally change all the rule, right? So I'm writing a sequel to a sacrificial religion, so I need to include sacrifice in the second part.
Torah 2, Palestine Strikes Back.
Gotta be careful. Paul used to work for Lucasfilm. You get too many Star Wars references on May the 4th, and there's a chance that this stream might implode. Too much Inception.
I mean, I still blame Paul for at least a small fraction of the prequels, and I'm never getting that time back.
Yeah, if you say Jar Jar, then I have to live with the aftermath of that, and I can't.
I just want to sit Paul down in a restaurant and drink and ask him questions.
You know what?
That's going to happen.
If we go to Ontario GC, that needs to happen.
Yeah,
and we're going to drag you to Faithless Forum too with us too. So
yes,
oh totally.
God. Faithless Forum next year.
Yes,
you guys better be ready. Better be ready for the Canadian invasion because you'll give us more than 2 months notice.
We're also going to have to drag Steve there this time.
Yeah. No, he's agnostic. He can't come.
He can come. Yes, he can come.
Really an atheist. And that's
I actually would really love to have Steve and Kyle on a panel for a podcast panel.
Oh, that'd be great.
I would love that.
Do you know who else on this stream has a podcast?
I do.
Self-promotion.
Yeah.
Shameless plug for Heathen Hour.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about panel topics or anything yet. We're still trying to get the organization together. So
yeah.
But
so we got a super chat from DMAC. I am a person of my word. Okay, good. Sorry, I guess I don't understand the context of that. But we don't have time to watch the rest of it tonight. I will try to download it if I can so that we can, I guess, maybe I can cut out like all the BS stuff and we can just tackle like the non-answers to the questions. But,
maybe we could find.
I appreciate, huh?
Oh, I was just gonna say maybe we could get some of the other creators to join in with the next part.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Professor Stick and GMS and others that weren't able to be in.
We'll plan ahead because we kind of saw this and then this was sort of last minute put together thing. So
I just glanced down at my phone at work and I'm like, Casey added me to a group. What is the? Okay, so apparently this is happening tonight right after I get off work. Awesome.
Apparently this is a thing.
And Jackson, what's your earlier on Plus Jackson?
Zero at the super chat. I'm also a person of DMAX word.
Oh, your super chats are the best. Super chats.
Yeah, well, I think they're still, or they still
they're off air. They're off air now.
They just went off air.
I have some guy in their chat that keeps asking me why he keeps asking why it's wrong to tar and feather religious people. And I'm like, because they're people and I don't believe in violence against people.
The purpose of them asking that kind of ridiculous as fuck question is because they're presuppositionalists. They will say, well, you have to borrow from my worldview in order to say that it's wrong.
No, I don't. I'm a humanist and I don't believe in violence against people. And so I answered it and he keeps asking me the same question. I'm like, I've answered that. And he said, no, you didn't answer it. Yeah, I did. You just don't like my answer. These people are insane.
You're grounding your answer in humanism. I don't see it.
Okay, so he's upset because you won't attack an individual. Is that what?
Well, I don't know why he's upset. He wants to know why I think it's wrong to tar and feather religious people, and I'm like, I think it's wrong to tar and feather any people. I don't even understand.
He wants an objective.
Except for
When
If it was
Steve's done,
genetically
can I
modified
say something?
skeptic, it would be okay. But
Yeah,
let me
well,
take a
fuck
second.
him.
Look,
Well,
you could even I'll even do it in an objective moral route. Okay, you could take what Wittgenstein, he actually grounded in compassion. You ground morality in compassion, and in this case, I am compassionate enough to my fellow person that I don't want to go around causing harm to them. I have empathy for them. That's a perfectly fine way to ground objective morality if you accept objective morality. You don't have to, but you can use things like that, like compassion. In her case, humanism, which I think you're relating compassion to, right? Towards other people.
Yeah, and he doesn't
what's wrong
like that answer, so apparently I'm not answering it. Also, I'm being asked to answer for problems people have with John, which I was like, if you have a problem with him, talk to him.
I was about to say, you're not.
Apparently, a lot of people
that's
have a
weird.
problem with me on that channel. I don't know why. I mean, I'm a lovely fucking person.
You are a constant fucking delight, honey.
You're around 24/7.
Well, I would like to contest that. No, just
So
may I
raise your hand if you're hated by Dean.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a Nazi and a fucking whatever, but I still want to answer that question. Okay, so the question about the person that's a fundamentalist. Here's, if it's okay for me to answer this question, because that niggles at me, because that's my main purpose on my channel is conversations. If your intent, you have to look at your intent. If your intent is to make sure and you really legitimately want other people to change their minds and see your perspective and be freed from it, attacking the people who aren't is only polarizing them further. It's only separating them farther from reason. It's only giving them a pillar to look to that says I'm justified because I'm persecuted. So attacking an individual, saying, fuck you, you're fucked, and you're unreasonable, is tantamount to saying, I don't care what you think, and I don't want to help you. And if you want to help those people, if you want to move them out of that, if you want to bring them over to the side that you feel is reasonable, and I understand as a human, maybe my side isn't reasonable. I'd like to think that it is, but maybe it isn't. But if you just give somebody the respect on a psychological level to say, you know what, I understand this isn't what you believe, and you feel attacked, and you want to fight against the fact that you feel attacked, and this is the death pangs of your belief. If you corner a belief, it's like an animal. You will fight against it. Those are hard things to come against. You have to approach them in the same manner.
Or you can just laugh at them.
Or you could just laugh at them and not give a fuck.
Well, so
and this is the reason the two of us host that podcast.
But I think there's
it'd be a shit show.
Shannon, I think you're right sometimes. With some people.
Okay.
With a lot of people, I think you're right. But then there are people like Dean and White Engine and the ridiculous Tiger, and there are some people that are not worthy of that kind of respect based on their behavior. Now, if you start out giving them the latitude and trying to do that, then that's what you should. That's where you should always start.
You should, yes. Yeah.
But some people I don't care to reach out to. Some people are not people that will ever come to a side of reason, and because of the behavior that they have demonstrated and how they have treated myself and people that I care about, I have no interest in having those kinds of conversations with them. They are not worth my time.
Okay, so this is an interesting conversation to have. So, and this is something that I'm interested in engaging with, because being in a public forum for the first time in a while, and I've got two videos on my YouTube channel. Like, this is a new thing for me, and my thing is about dialogue. Now, that's a hard question for me, and the reason that that's a hard question for me is because It's not necessarily, to me, especially being in a public forum, about the person that I'm engaging with. It's about the people that are watching me engage with that person. Now, I don't, and I feel like just because I'm engaging with them on a level that seems like respect, that doesn't mean that I respect that person's ideas. That means that I'm allowing other people room to see that I'm transcending their disrespect. That they're saying horrible, awful things to me. And instead of allowing them to escalate me to their level, I'm saying to them, I understand that what you think has brought you to this point. And I'm going to put a mirror to your face and then turn that around to everybody else so that they can see what that looks like. How does that feel? I'm the reasonable one in this conversation. I'm not allowing you to dictate to me how I react. Being calm allows everybody else to see how unreasonable you are. That's the way I feel. I mean, and I could be wrong because there's been times that I've been like, I just want to tell you.
I've seen you do that too on Steve's channel.
It's hard because I'm an actual goddamn human, believe it or not, and I try to swallow it, but it's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard.
Tries to swallow. Okay.
And I get, I do get what you're saying.
But hey, look at Shanna. Here's the thing, though. I think when people come to it,
And I want to be Casey
openly
sometimes,
talk.
and I'm like, yeah.
But the person like talking to KC, that person wants a specific answer to fit their narrative. They're looking for, how do you take account morality, right? They're looking for a script. And if you don't answer on that script, they're going to think that you're dodging their question, not answering it appropriately, because they won't come to somebody who can answer, that can explain to them why they're full of shit, presuppositionally. I mean, I'm sure Casey can, but they don't. They try to go after people that don't have a deep understanding of philosophy, and so they want you to make it sound like, well, you're an atheist, you don't have any grounding for morality. G-Man does that an awful lot. It's complete bullshit. It's absolute fucking bullshit. It's a trick. There's nothing to it. You can ground morality anything you want. You can have subjective morality. You can have subjective and objective. These are meta-ethical things. But to say that I don't want to cause harm to somebody, and you could take more of a what's called a normative approach of virtue ethics, that's fine. I'm a virtue ethicist for the most part. There's nothing wrong with that. They think that you can't do that. They think you have to have a deity, a lawgiver, a moral lawgiver to have morality. I believe the opposite. I believe we have morality. And if you want to believe in a lawgiver from that, the law should come from the morality, not the other way around. They have it backwards. That's why there's a disconnect there.
Well, yeah, and their biggest thing though, Steve, is that your morality can change and theirs can't, right? That's what they try to get across, is that their morality is superior to ours because ours changes and theirs never does.
They're talking about things like descriptive moral relativism. They're talking about things like, there's a difference between saying X is immoral and I believe X is immoral. Those are two different things. Yeah. Right. My opinions on it being immoral or not, who gives a shit? We're not talking about that. Those vary. We all agree those vary. Right. We're talking about the objective fact, if there is such things as moral facts. Yeah. And personally, like I said, I don't really care one way or another if there are. I think there could be, but I tend more to error theory because I like it. But
their thing though is that their X will never change and yours might, right? So your X will turn into a Y 50 years down the road.
But not if there's moral facts. Moral facts are irrelevant of what you think.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you and I understand this, but I'm saying they don't, right? That's what
that's a lot. That's a lot like the argument against science, where science changes, that makes it wrong.
Yeah. All right, guys.
We gotta go. We gotta end it. I gotta get my son to bed. So.
Oh my God!
What?
I just can't believe it's like almost 1 o'clock in the morning where I am.
Thanks a lot for having me on, guys. It was fun.
No, don't thank him. God damn it.
This was fun.
Thank you so much, Cranium, for joining. Shannon, tell Paul that I said thank you. And Steve, thank you for joining too.
Jackson.
And Jackson, Surus, and we had Kyle on for a little bit ago.
Yeah.
So we appreciate everybody coming on. We'll try to do something where we respond to a little bit more of it, or at least listen to it or something. Anyways.
Get very drunk.
Yeah. So we'll see you heathens later. Neko Cross says, I am Groot. I want to say that was very vulgar, and I don't know why you would say such vulgar things.
Why are you saying such horrible things? You know that that's inappropriate. Now it's demonetized.
You know what? Give me that video. Give me the handheld video game. You can't have it anymore. Not with that attitude.
Event Horizon said, because you're all earbud worn in.
Can't take it away
from me.
And whoever betted that they wouldn't get to any of the questions was wrong. I'm just pointing that out. I'm just saying.
I know, and actually, I had their stream up, and they answered all of them. Like, I mean, not answered, but they got through our video.
Non-answered.
No. Oh, I have to watch it later.
That's
we
cool.
Never even got to mine and Paul's. We never got to services. We never got to yours or GE's.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll do another one.
Yep.
We might need 5. I'm just saying.
Get off topic. Yeah,
you might want to just have the one person whose question is.
I'm actually going to have a hangout next week on John's question on something from nothing, because I've asked that question a few weeks before, and I personally believe that something coming from nothing is perfectly logical. I don't see any illogical thing with it whatsoever. But it's a question that's been asked there, and I want to get some logisticians in there, so maybe you might be interested in joining, John. But I will be having a hangout just on that one question. Is we require an hour-long hangout. It's a very intricately involved question, but it's an interesting question. But personally, I think that there's nothing illogical about something for nothing. But it's
so where are you having the hangout?
That'll be on my channel, but that won't be till next week. We've got so many other things to check. And I'm also going to have a woman, Amanda Curtin-O, on Monday, talking about nuclear reactors, if anybody's interested in how they work with an actual nuclear engineer.
Sweet. Yep. So appreciate everybody joining up tonight. We're gonna go ahead and stop. I appreciate all of the super chats and everything like that. I hope that we didn't miss any. I don't think that we did. But tune in on Monday night on the Facebook page for another stream, and we will see you heathens later.
Don't forget to stand up and use your voice.